Independent Budget Analyst Charles Modica, Director of Policy in the Mayor's Office Jessica Lawrence, and myself, your City Clerk Elizabeth Mayland.
Thank you, Clerk. We will begin this afternoon with an invocation by Clerk Mayland, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Whitburn.
Please stand for our invocation. Grant those who hold office in this city the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people.
Good morning, everybody. Please face the flag. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Clerk and Councilmember Whitburn. Do we have any mayor, council, city attorney, independent budget analyst, or city clerk comments? All right, hearing none, city clerk, please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Council President. If you are here with us in council chambers and you think you'd like to speak on an item that's on our agenda, please fill out a speaker slip as soon as possible. Those slips are located in the back of the room by the double doors. And we ask that once you fill them out, you bring them forward. There's a box right up here in the front. You can just place it right on top of the box. We ask that you do this as soon as possible to assist us with meeting management. In-person testimony will conclude before virtual testimony begins. Members of the public can also join the webinar by computer, tablet, or smartphone by accessing the link, which is listed online in the preamble language of the agenda on the city's webpage. If you need to participate by telephone, you can call 1-669-254-5252. Our webinar ID is 161-170-3951#. This information is also available on the agenda and will appear on the screen during the public comment period for the agenda item. As noted by our council president, members of the public who wish to provide virtual testimony must enter the virtual queue by raising their hand before that queue closes. The queue will close when the last virtual speaker finishes speaking or 5 minutes after in-person testimony ends, whichever occurs first. Please note that if you're watching via City TV 24 or online, there may be a delay, so please participate via the audio on your phone and mute your TV or computer when it's your turn to speak. If you wish to speak on a particular item, please wait for that item to be called and then raise your hand to speak by tapping the raise your hand icon, or if you're a call-in participant, it's *9. If you raise your hand during a non-comment period, your hand will be lowered. For purposes of today's meeting, the order of business is anticipated to be as follows, and we'll go ahead and put a slide on the screen. We'll start with item 604, which is a proclamation. From there, we'll take up item 603 and items 601, 600, and 602, which are informational items, followed by non-agenda public comment.
Thank you, Clerk. With a quorum present, let's dispense with the approval of the proclamation item. Please proceed with public comment.
Thank you, Council President. The public comment period for our proclamation is now open. I don't have any slips from folks here in council chambers, but I'll remind people if they wish to speak on item 604. Item 604 is Mayor Gloria and Council President Ela Rivera proclaiming October 31st, 2022 to be Jay Goldstone Day in the city of San Diego. So I'm going to remind folks that if they wish to speak, I see nobody here. Council President, I'll go ahead and turn to our virtual queue and see if we have any public speakers. I don't see any hands raised, so there is no public comment on item 604.
All right, thank you so much, Clerk. Prior to taking the vote, the city clerk will note the proclamation item being considered, which is item 604. We will now move to councilmember questions and comments on the item, beginning with Councilmember Kate, followed by Councilmember Whitburn.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you for all the staff that are here to recognize and support Jay. Just wanted to say thank you for coming back to the city. Thank you for your leadership during the transition over the last couple of years to this new administration. I'm thankful I've had the opportunity to work with you in this capacity, having been on the other side as a staff member on the outside when you were previously here, but being here on the council while you being the COO for the city has been fantastic. Gotten some pretty meaty issues, but appreciated your take on things, your history of being here with the city previously as well too, and guiding us into a good spot as a city. So just want to say thank you. Appreciate having this opportunity to work with you in my last couple of years in office. No, you're not going anywhere. Look forward to working with you, following this as well too. But for everything you've done for the city, we're very, very grateful. So appreciate your commitment to this city. And with that, Council President, I'm happy to move the recommendation on the proclamation.
Thank you, Councilmember
Thank
Kate.
you.
Got a motion there. We'll now go to Councilmember Whitburn.
Very happy to second the motion, and I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Mr. Goldstone, for your expertise, your leadership, and your collaboration. The mayor and the council and the very talented city staff that you lead, much of the leadership of which is here with us today, have gotten a lot done for the residents of our city, and we have worked together productively. San Diego has benefited from your service as COO. I'm glad that the city will continue to benefit from your talents as you take on the specialized role of helping us to advance the revitalizations of the downtown civic core and the Midway Sports Arena. So thank you very much for these past 2 years, and here's to continued success. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Whitburn. Councilmember Campillo.
Thank you, Council President. Just want to extend my congratulations to Mr. Goldstone and say how much I appreciate his wisdom and knowledge on lots of issues related to the city. As a first 2 years being on city council, I knew that I could call Jay to get a good sense of the details, that we could ask him to focus on things that our constituents really wanted to see. And every time I had those conversations, I knew that through the way he was approaching things, he was trying to serve the city of San Diego and our constituents first and foremost, while at the same time being a great leader for all of our city employees that he oversees. He has multiple constituencies that he's had to work to further their interests, and I know that that just comes from a place of immense goodwill and love for our city. Jay, I know numerous times I called you and I could hear your grandchildren playing soccer in the background. And so I have to apologize to your family and say how much I appreciate you taking those calls when we had urgent issues. A broken water pipe comes to mind, where you were on the phone and I could hear a goal being scored in the background. And I was like, darn, I took Jay away from this great moment. But he has always kept the people of San Diego at the forefront of his mind. And for that, I am deeply grateful. So thank you for all you've done for me, for my constituents, District 7, and our entire city.
Thank you, Councilmember Campillo. We'll now go to Council President Pro Tem Montgomery Stepp, followed by Councilmember Von Wilpert.
Thank you. I just want to add on and say thank you, Jay. You loved the city so much that you came back and served 2 additional years, which I know for me have been challenging. So for you, I would assume this, these are challenging times, and you came back right in the thick of things and really navigated us through a lot of challenges. So I just want to say thank you for that, and hopefully that we can send you in peace and you can really retire. Thank you so much, Jay, for everything that you have done.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. Councilmember Von Wilpert, followed by Councilmember Campbell.
Thank you, Council President. I too want to thank Jay Goldstone for everything you've done for the city. I mean, just showing who is here in the audience today is some of the brightest minds we have. A lot of our DCOs are here and heads of department are here to support you because you've been a great leader. I really am very fortunate. I know we are all very fortunate to know you're going to stay on to help us with massive redevelopment projects, which are going to need a steady hand. So don't go too far yet in your retirement. But one of the biggest things I want to thank you for is for setting an example about how to have large, meaty issues that we can debate in a way that maintains civil discourse and shows you can disagree with policymakers, but you can still maintain professional decorum. We don't see that in our highest halls of Congress right now. And so I know that we've butted heads over various things, and the fact is we have a great working relationship, and I respect you greatly, especially because you set such a good example for the rest of us. So thank you very much, and congratulations on your day.
Thank you, Councilmember Von Wilpert. Councilmember Campbell, followed by Councilmember LaCava.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Jay, for everything you've done, all your service to the city. And I am so grateful that you're staying on to help us with these big projects that we have coming up. And I just admire you so much. It's been a pleasure to work with you. And again, thank you for staying for these other measures that we're going to be working on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. Councilmember LaCava.
Thank you, Council President. Jay, get a life. Come on. I'll echo the comments of my colleagues. Thank you very much. You're the very embodiment of what public service is all about. You served the city well when you were formerly the COO, and then you came back and helped this mayor and this new council, biggest transformation we've ever had for a city council, electing 5 brand new council members, to really navigate some very difficult waters with COVID and the impact on our revenue and trying to navigate the federal response. Can't thank you enough. And there is no better testimony of what your leadership has been than the DCOs that are here and who you've assembled to lead us into that next generation of what our city will become. Yeah, normally we sit here and we say, don't be a stranger, but clearly you understand what it means to stay with the city and help us through even bigger conversations about the civic core. So thank you for that. I'll miss those monthly meetings, and hopefully we can still continue those in a great way. And I think my colleagues said it best in really identifying what collaboration and conversation and how to talk about with each other when we have differences and get to the right answer for the right reasons in the right way. So thank you for your continued service and your continuing service on that. So thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember LaCava. Thank you. Really, really appreciate you, Jay. I appreciate how attentive you've been to our office and the council in general, the many, many questions you've answered from Lydia and myself. Really, really do appreciate that. I think my colleagues did a great job of pointing out, the fact that your folks are here. I don't think it's because they still work for you that they are there alongside you today. Maybe it is. But I am very, very grateful as well that you'll be, the work that you've done, and that you'll be sticking with us for just one more, right, project? For now. We'll keep pulling you back in. Very, very grateful for that. I know that the Mayor's Chief of Staff, Paula, you had some comments as well. I'd like to invite you up and to make those.
Thank you. On behalf of the mayor, and I think the entire mayor's office, really want to thank you, Jay, for stepping up the way you did. The mayor always refers to the lesson that he was given by his parents, that you always want to leave the place better than the way you found it. And you've done that multiple times. And then apparently was unsatisfied with the way you left it, so you came back to improve it once again. So you are leaving the city, you're leaving us in a better place. And I really personally appreciative of our partnership and all of your help. Honestly, few people have the opportunity to leave a mark and have such a successful career. You had a successful career before even coming back. You came back and you took on some of the most challenging issues, not to mention, a global pandemic, which we had never experienced or knew how to navigate. And then are retiring only to take on one of the biggest things that have been daunting and that other administrations haven't been able to do, the downtown redevelopment. So extremely grateful, and what a privilege it has been to work with you, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. I would just say thank you one more time, Jay, for everything that you've done and are doing, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you. With that, we've got a motion and a second on the floor. Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Council President. I'm queuing up our voting system here in council chambers and ask that council members vote on item 604. The proclamation passes unanimously with Councilmember Moreno absent.
Hopefully that was just long enough to make you feel embarrassed, Jay. Good, mission accomplished. All right, with that, City Clerk, please introduce item 603.
President, item 603, resolution to declare housing as a human right in the city of San Diego. If you are here in council chambers and you would like to speak on item 603, please submit your speaker slip. Given the number of folks that we have online and already the speaker slips that I have in my hand, folks will have up to 1 minute to speak on this item.
Thank you, Clerk. Before staff presents, before Maya begins her presentation, I did want to provide some preface comments to frame the item. As Maya will highlight, we are doing some great things on homelessness, but they're clearly not enough. The suffering and indignities on our streets are obvious to everyone in this room and everyone in the city. And I believe that we cannot solve problems without clearly and directly acknowledging and confronting them. At the heart of our struggle to solve this housing and homelessness crisis is truly committing ourselves to the goal to ending those crises. And I believe that the commitment that we are going to discuss today reflects the kind of city that San Diego wants to be. Do we want the city to be a city that is okay with suffering and indignities occurring on our streets? Or do we want it to be a city that believes and is willing to go on the record that everyone deserves a roof over their head, and we will do all it takes to bring that belief into reality? And I believe most San Diegans want to be the latter. That's why my office has partnered with Council President Pro Tem Montgomery Stepp, Councilmember LaCava, and Councilmember Campillo in introducing this resolution declaring housing as a human right, which will demonstrate this council's commitment to acting to uphold these rights for our residents. As Maya will point out, there are good examples of this. In January, we adopted by resolution a compensation philosophy. It's a statement of values to which our employees can hold us accountable when setting employment policy. And that's a key piece of this resolution before us today, accountability. I believe this declaration will affirm our commitment to housing for San Diego residents and be a guiding principle for what we do as a city. One of my themes since entering office is transparency and accountability in government. This is important for us as a city to make this commitment to the residents of San Diego amidst our housing and homelessness crises, that we will do what it takes to meet the moment, and everyone has a stake in this issue and can be held accountable, can hold accountable their elected officials, us. And with that, I will throw it to Maya.
Thank you, Council President. Okay. Good afternoon, Council President Pro Tem Montgomery Stepp, and council members. My name is Maya Rosas with Council President Sean Ela Rivera's office, and I'm joined today with my Chief of Staff, Lydia Van Note. We will need 7 minutes for our presentation. Council President Ela Rivera is bringing this proposed resolution forward with Council President Pro Tem Montgomery Stepp, Councilmember LaCava, and Councilmember Campillo, and requesting council action today to request the City Attorney's Office prepare a resolution for the City Council's consideration to declare housing as a human right. I have handed out the resolution proposed by the Council President Pro Tem, Council members LaCava and Campillo, in addition to an alternative option B, which has also been added to the agenda online. Why a housing as a human right resolution? As we state in the resolution, the right to housing is a fundamental human right linked to dignity and the right to life. Housing is the basis of stability and security for an individual or a family. The implementation of this human right depends on the provision of adequate housing enabled by appropriate government policies and programs. This resolution demonstrates the Council's commitment to implementing this human right through its actions. To demonstrate the utility of the resolution before the Council today, we'd like to highlight the example of the City Council passing a compensation philosophy in January. That philosophy, which was adopted by resolution, is a commitment to action that is consistent with our stated values. The resolution before the Council today is an opportunity to do that with respect to housing.
The resolution reviews the historical context that leads us to proposing a housing as a human right resolution. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly and signed by the United States in 1948. It declared housing as a component of the right to a standard of living adequate for everyone's health and well-being. In 1977, the United States signed the yet-to-be-ratified International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, which commits its ratifying parties to progressively work toward the granting of economic, social, and cultural rights, including the right to adequate housing. The United States has a history of institutionalized lending discrimination, exclusionary zoning, and redlining, denying people of color their ability to share in the country's prosperity and reducing their ability to fulfill the right to a home. The City of San Diego shares this history of exclusionary zoning, restrictive covenants, and redlining, which has led to the exclusion of historically marginalized communities from the opportunity to access homeownership and diminished their political and economic power and representation. The resolution includes facts about the state of housing for San Diegans today. Housing costs in the city of San Diego have risen, with average rent prices increasing 46% from 2012 to 2019. 50% of households are housing cost burdened, meaning these households spend more than 30% of their income on housing costs. The 2022 point-in-time count found 4,801 individuals experiencing homelessness across the city of San Diego. That's a 9% increase in the number of unsheltered individuals from 2020 when the count was last completed. Black San Diegans comprised 29% of unsheltered individuals in the 2022 count, despite only representing 4% of the city's population. Declarations of housing as a human right fall short unless matched with progressive actions towards fulfilling that right, which can include but not be limited to devoting resources to public housing or housing vouchers, creating incentives for the private development of affordable housing, providing legal due process protections from eviction or foreclosure, upholding the right to counsel to enforce those protections, ensuring habitable conditions through housing code enforcement and inspections, and by not threatening individuals with civil or criminal penalties because they are homeless. The City of San Diego has progressively implemented programs, policies, and funding to increase the supply of adequate housing, including the supply of affordable housing for low-income and extremely low-income individuals and families, permanent supportive housing, micro units, and accessory dwelling units. The City of San Diego has received state and federal funding to increase access to affordable housing through the provision of grants, loans, and vouchers. Short-term investments inconsistent with Housing First strategies and limitations on who can receive support through programs, such as not allowing spouses to access certain resources together or lacking accessibility or not addressing disabilities, can lead to large segments of the population being excluded from housing and other supportive services. The proposed resolution then resolves that the council declares the right to housing as a fundamental human right linked to dignity and the right to life. The resolution continues that the council, through its legislative authority, intends to center equity in its efforts to implement housing and redress past harms, ensure those who have historically not had access to adequate housing are prioritized, further incentivize affordable housing in high opportunity neighborhoods for those previously excluded, and identify equitable and effective solutions by working with individuals with lived experience. The resolution concludes that the council intends for the city to support housing as a human right by implementing policies that address the root causes of homelessness, that keep people housed through affordable, accessible, and habitable homes, and that provide pathways to housing for people experiencing homelessness. Therefore, we request today that the council request the city attorney's office prepare a resolution for city council's consideration to declare housing as a human right. We're available to answer any questions and appreciate the opportunity to discuss housing as a human right with you all today. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Appreciate the presentation. Great job. Thank you for leading on this. I know it's been a long time in the making. I want to thank Panna and ACE, two of the community-based organizations that helped contribute to this, as well as a number of other advocates and organizers who provided feedback. And then a big thank you again to Council President Pro Tem Montgomery Stepp, Councilmember LaCava, and Councilmember Campillo for your partnership, input, feedback as co-sponsors. As policymakers, we have a delicate balance to strike between providing the basic human needs for our residents and the risks that we take trying to achieve that. There are risks in acknowledging the harms government has committed, and I don't think that we can solve problems without acknowledging them. There's a higher calling for city government than avoiding lawsuits. Where would we be today if we declared housing as a right 10, 20, 30 years ago? I believe we'd be in a place where we'd have an adequate supply of housing that would make housing affordable for all San Diegans. We would have kept communities intact that have been pulled apart by gentrification and displacement. We would have adequate tenant protections so that those who are paying their rent and abiding by the terms of their lease are not living in constant fear of being evicted. We'd have more homeownership. How many lawsuits would have been avoided had we committed to this long ago? How many tax dollars would we have saved had we committed to this long ago? I think those are important questions for us to consider. I want to thank the City Attorney's Office for their work in helping guide the drafting of the draft that's been provided. And for the sake of conversation today, we've also uploaded a second option in terms of language, which can be found online and that each of the council members have in front of us as well. Look forward to hearing feedback from the public and the council members for guidance from the City Attorney's Office so that we can develop and bring forward a final reconciled version for consideration at a later date. With that, we will open it up for City Attorney and IBA comments before taking public comment. Madam City Attorney.
Thank you, Council President. Item 601 is an informational item intended to result in a tenant protection ordinance, and item 603 asks the council to request my office to draft a declaration that would return to the council for adoption at a future meeting. Under our city's charter, my office is charged with drafting resolutions and ordinances. That is because these are legal instruments with legal significance. We will be listening carefully to the direction we receive during today's discussion so that we can capture the council's intent. In early September, my office provided the council president with preliminary feedback on a tenant protection ordinance he presented to us, and we requested his policy guidance. We are hoping to receive that today as part of the hearing. To assist in your discussions, my office issued a memo on October 26 describing some of the laws that may impact your actions. That memo is part of the backup materials and available to the public. Here are some basic guidance applicable to items 601 and 603. Housing law is complicated because it impacts the rights of property owners and tenants. Stakeholders should be heard before action is taken, and the council's reasons for any action it takes should be explained on the record. The state has also taken action to determine when municipalities like ours can issue regulations or make law, so we need to cross-check that as well. Action taken by local government regarding housing and homelessness is frequently litigated. We monitor the cases to make sure the city's actions withstand challenge. A resolution is a legal document that can create enforceable rights. If we make promises we cannot keep, we will likely be sued. Aspirational language is often used in a resolution like this, where the council is making progress on issues, but work lies ahead. Here, the city needs time to implement its legislative priorities and to achieve results. For results we have not yet achieved, you may want to consider creating benchmarks so you can track your progress. Last, the mayor is the city's manager and an important stakeholder who will be impacted by whatever actions result from today's items. The same is true for my office. Both offices have a role that is different from and often independent of the role of the council. Given the complexity of the issues we're discussing today, we suggest appointing a working group with whom we can work to speed our review. We also suggest vetting any resulting proposals in committee to ensure that all stakeholders have a voice. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Seeing no additional comments from the independent budget analyst, clerk, let's proceed with public comment.
Thank you, Council President. I do have quite a number of speaker slips here in council chambers, and with, it looks like 18 that are in the queue, so each speaker will have up to 1 minute. When I call your name, folks, we're starting with the folks in chambers. Please come forward. There are seats reserved in the front. It does really assist us with meeting management. So Serena Pelka, you'll be our first speaker, followed by Julian Cameron, followed by John Brady, and Samantha Schwimmer. So Serena will be at the mic, but Julian, John, and Samantha, please come forward. There are seats right up here in the front row. That'll help us move forward efficiently. And Serena, go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is Serena Pelka, policy advocate with Climate Action Campaign, speaking in support of the Housing as a Human Right resolution. A human right is a right that is believed to belong justifiably to every person. Housing is a human right. When we talk about housing, we are talking about a basic need. Food, water, clothing, sleep, and shelter are the bare necessities for anyone's survival. However, the Regional Task Force on Homelessness reports that over 15,000 people sought homeless services for the first time over the last 12 months, outpacing the nearly 12,000 people who moved into housing. That means for every 10 people that are newly housed, 13 people access homeless services for the first time. What is the point of meeting our climate action plan goals, RHNA targets, and other state guidelines if we fail to prevent people from losing their housing? Please support this resolution as a first step to ensure the city prioritizes policies to address the root causes of homelessness, create affordable, safe, and healthy homes, and provide pathways to housing for
Thank
people
you.
experiencing homelessness.
Thank you so much. Julian Cameron is our next speaker. Julian, please step forward to the mic. John Brady, Samantha Schwimmer, and Zach Schlegel should all be in seats in the front row. Go ahead, sir. You can have up to 1 minute.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Julian Cameron, and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator with Victor Outreach San Diego. Thank you for the leadership for opening up the floor and hearing the cry of the city for seeking to bring resolution to the situation of homelessness. I want to open up with what I consider an eye-opening statistic. According to the National Library of Medicine, 50% of all homeless persons suffer from drug and alcohol abuse. I know we are here to discuss how we can help those suffering from homelessness currently, and that's very important. But I believe we should also discuss homelessness prevention. In the last 30 years, our organization, Victor Outreach San Diego, has rescued thousands of families battling addiction from potential homelessness through our recovery programs. Many of the individuals that have successfully completed our programs are not only free from alcohol and drug addiction, but are contributing members of society.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for your comments. John Brady, please step up to the mic. Samantha Schwimmer, Zach Schlegel, and Levi Giafagiglione should be in the front row. Go ahead, sir. You can have up to 1 minute.
Good afternoon, Council President and council members, and happy Halloween. John Brady here. I'm the Director of Lived Experience Advisors, a group of formerly homeless individuals that advocate for more solutions to homelessness. Thank you for bringing this declaration forward. Making this declaration will bring more public attention to our housing crisis. With a vacancy rate of 1.5%, a little over 4,000 units are available in our great city today, and the great majority of those are luxury housing units. It is time that we begin treating housing as a required public service like schools, public safety, and domestic security. Currently, for every 10 unsheltered individuals we're exiting homelessness, 13 are entering. Stemming the tide of homelessness requires affordable housing. Ending homelessness begins with a home. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll go to our next speaker, Samantha Schwimmer. You should be up at the mic. You'll be followed by Zach Schlegel, Levi Giafagiglione, and Cristobal Navarrete, who should all be in the front row. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, City Council President Ella Rivera and fellow council members. My name is Samantha Schwimmer. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm here on behalf of the San Diego LGBT Community Center to urge the council to request the city attorney's office to prepare a resolution to declare housing as a human right. As a health and human service provider for the San Diego LGBTQ community, we believe that housing is a human right. We have seen firsthand a tremendous increase in housing needs in the past several years in San Diego. Our clients have faced greater housing insecurity in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic and the rising cost of living in this city. This has particularly impacted LGBTQ people who are also Black, Latinx, immigrants, youth, and seniors. While we acknowledge that there is much to be done beyond this resolution, supporting this action today is a critical step the council can take to commit to making San Diego a place where all community members can live and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Zach Schlegel, please come up to the microphone. And Levi, Cristobal, and Ginger Hitzke, you should all be in the front row. Go ahead, sir. You can have up to 1 minute.
Good afternoon. I'm Zach Schlegel on behalf of PATH, People Assisting the Homeless. PATH is the largest homeless service provider in California and thankful to be a partner to the city of San Diego for nearly a decade. My PATH colleagues and I wake up every day determined to help as many people off the street as possible. We know that housing is a human right and the most direct solution to ending homelessness. I want to thank Council President Eloy Rivera and his team for putting forward this important resolution. Commendably, he and his team were very deliberate in their attempts to write the most inclusive resolution possible, and I appreciate him selecting me as one of the initial drafters. It's particularly important that the resolution appropriately calls out the historic discrimination, which continues to be a barrier to equitable housing solutions. We are committed to working with the mayor, council, and other providers to move beyond these barriers to meet and exceed the intentions of this resolution together. Thank you.
Thank you. Levi Gia Faglioni, followed by Cristobal, Ginger, and then Ms. Maxwell. You should all three be in the front row. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Levi J. Filioni, representing Lived Experience Advisors. I wanted to bring everyone's attention to a promise and a pledge that we all agreed on a few moments ago with the flag. The principles that we all agreed to, justice and liberty, the definitions are often forgotten. So every baby, every child is born innocent. If that child becomes the victim of child abuse, protective services comes in and takes that child. That child may grow up largely without anyone invested in who they become as a person in the outcome. Should that child end up homeless and have a drug addiction, is that justice? And on November 1st, 1955, a man left his mother to fight for his country. When he returned, his mother was deceased. Now that man has a crippling alcohol addiction and is now homeless. So I ask you, is that liberty?
Thank you, sir. Cristobal Navarrete, you're our next speaker. Ginger, Ms. Maxwell, and Tamara Kohler should all be in the front row. Go ahead, sir. You can have up to 1 minute.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Cristobal Navarrete. I manage the rental assistance program at City Heights CDC. I get around dozens of phone calls from tenants needing rental assistance, and many of them, the majority of them, have notices to pay or quit. So they're on the verge of losing their home. A lot of them cannot be here because all of their time is occupied by working countless hours to pay rent. So I'm here to represent them because I know they would support this resolution. And thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you, sir. Ginger Hitzke, you're our next speaker. Ginger will be followed by Ms. Maxwell, Tamara Kohler, and Bob Kazuski. Those three folks should be in the front row. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Council President, members of the City Council. My name is Ginger Hitzke with Hitzke Development, corporate landlord. I just wanted to thank you so much for bringing this item forward. This is a huge leadership step and will set a very good standard for other cities within the county to recognize that housing is a human right. Thank you very much, and I ask for your support.
Thank you. Ms. Maxwell is our next speaker. Ms. Maxwell, you'll be followed by Tamara Kohler, Bob Kazuski, and Laura Ann Fernand. Those three should be in the front row. Go ahead, ma'am.
Francine Maxwell, Southeastern San Diego resident. I thank you for the resolution. The hours actually paid off attending some of those meetings in the middle of the day. I stand here with my brothers and sisters that couldn't come. And in an October 2021 report, 53% of African Americans spend their budget on trying to keep a roof over their heads. So I want to make sure that although the income is a little bit skewed in certain people's report, 53% is what Black people spend here in San Diego trying to keep themselves away from being on the road. So we're looking, the city of San Diego, we're looking, we're hoping, we're watching, and we're looking for a unanimous vote so that we can do something. And it's sooner than later. I understand, Mara, you mentioned it's going to come back. let's make sure that although we're moving to the holiday season, that some people work just a little bit overtime because our brothers and sisters on the street are about to get real cold. Thank you so much. Looking forward to your support.
Thank you. Tamara Kohler is our next speaker, and then Bob Kazuski, Laura Ann Fernand, and Rafael Bautista should be in the front row. Go ahead, ma'am. You can have up to 1 minute.
Thank you. Tamara Kohler, CEO of the Regional Task Force on Homelessness, she, her. You know, we start every presentation at the Regional Task Force with a couple statements of what we believe. We believe homelessness is solvable. We believe all people can be successful in housing with the right supports and opportunities. And we believe housing is a basic human need and right. And we stand ready to support the council in all of the work that it takes to bring this to fruition. And we are honored to serve with you in a courageous choice to make a statement like this and hope that all of our combined work can reduce the numbers currently on the verge of experiencing homelessness, far too many that are unsheltered, and we retain those in housing that we currently have housed as housing becomes less and less achievable. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Kazuski is our next speaker. Mr. Kazuski will be followed by Laura Ann Fernand, Rafael Bautista, then Juan Carlos Morales. Those three should be in the front row. Go ahead, sir.
I am not opposed to housing as a human right, but I am speaking in opposition to point out the hypocrisy of this council in claiming to support the human rights while destroying the very humanity of your citizens through your continued and ongoing permissive policies on substance abuse. Marijuana is a gateway drug. It draws young people into the dangerous habit of seeking happiness through substances rather than their own personal accomplishments. As an earlier gentleman stated, drug abuse is a significant part of the housing problem. Please address it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll go to our next speaker, Laura Ann Fernand. Laura Ann, you'll be followed by Rafael Bautista, followed by Juan Carlos Morales, followed by Carolina Duran.
Thank you. My name is Laura Ann Fernand. I'm the City Heights CDC Executive Director, as well as the Director of the San Diego Eviction Prevention Collaborative. As you can tell from those names, we're all about preventing homelessness, preventing evictions, keeping people housed. But I believe that all people have a right to housing and a right to shelter, just like food. I think it's a basic human right. So I think it's wonderful that this resolution has been brought forward. I think also that this resolution really speaks to our values as a society and as a city. I think approving and validating this resolution communicates these values to everyone who lives in San Diego, both housed and unhoused. I thank you so much for bringing this resolution forward. I know we all know how big a problem this is. For me, prevention is very essential and something that we should be focusing even more on. But this resolution gives us that platform to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rafael Bautista. Rafael, you'll be followed by Juan Carlos Morales, followed by Carolina Duran, followed by Carlos Hernandez.
Hey everyone, this is Rafael Bautista. I'm the director with the San Diego Tenants Union. I wanted to thank you for finally bringing up this important resolution. Housing is a human right. It's important for us to not only proclaim it, but follow it up with acts. So I know the Tenant Protection Ordinance is a very important act that's soon to follow. As y'all know, we deal with tenants every single day. As a matter of fact, we have a meeting with another tenant right now that's getting displaced. After she fought off an illegal rent increase, the landlord now is trying to evict her. You have Constellation Management, Nick Davison in the front door, notorious displacers, notorious developers that bully tenants out of their homes, only to jack up the rents $1,000 per unit. This raises values about $100,000 in equity per unit. So it gives you an idea of why they're doing it and the practices they carry on. And to my face, Nick sat in front of me and told me that he was gonna pursue all methods to evict the tenants at Kelly Street.
Thank you, sir. Juan Carlos Morales, followed by Carolina Duran, followed by Carlos Hernandez, followed by Jean-Hui Tran, and Jean-Hui, Carolina, and Carlos, you should all be in the front row. Mr. Morales, it's my understanding you're requesting translation services. Come on forward to the tall mic, and then Deanna Fuentes, my assistant city clerk, will talk to you.
Si puede nomás hablar en frases cortas. Hola, señor. Si puede nomás hablar en frases cortas para poder traducirle adecuadamente. Gracias.
Mi nombre es Juan Carlos Morales.
My name is Juan Carlos Morales.
De la comunidad de Linda Vista,
I come from the community of Linda Vista.
más de derecho tenemos derecho de un hogar, de que somos humanamente, tenemos ese derecho, estamos tratando de
I'm here to speak about the human basic right of housing. We all have that right.
que no haya tanto movimiento en las familias de la comunidad, porque es algo triste de que no nos,
There shouldn't be so much movement of the community members within the community. So much
estamos
displacement.
moviendo, tenemos familias, tenemos hijos atrás, donde también son perjudicados porque no hay un derecho humano de una vivienda justa. Entonces, es lo que
It causes a lot of strife for the children that have to do all of this movement and have to move all of the time. This has to be a basic human right.
entonces, yo vengo para que ustedes puedan trabajar en esa área,
I'm here before you today asking for you all to work in that area
parar esas situaciones injustas.
and stop these unjust practices.
Eso es todo lo que me puedo expresar y
That's all that I'm here to express. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Morales received 1 minute for his testimony, 1 minute for translation. We'll return to our queue. Carolina or Carolina Duran, please come forward to the microphone, followed by Carlos Hernandez, followed by Jean-Louis Tran, followed by Colleen Cusack. Is Carolina or Carolina present? Is Carolina here? If not, then we'll go to Carlos Hernandez. Carlos Hernandez. Jean-Louis Tran, I see Jean-Louis. Go ahead and come forward. You can have up to 1 minute. You'll be followed by Colleen Cusack.
Good morning. My name is Jean-Louis Bonal-His. I am a community organizer, but I'm here to speak on the behalf of base members. I'm a member for a long time, but I'm here to appreciate Council President Elo Rivera and your team to bring forward this resolution. This is a subject that's really important to me. I shared previously that I could literally be homeless tomorrow if my landlord decided to do anything at all, evict me or even raise my rent that make it not affordable for me. So I'm really shocked that San Diego doesn't have a lot of tenant protection. So this is the first step. So I really encourage you to also listen to the room full of people here, take that in and do the right thing, pass to the resolution today. Thank you.
Thank you.
También Carolina Durán, si está aquí para poder hablar, puede venir hacia el frente. Yo voy a ayudar en su traducción. ¿Necesita asistencia con traducción? Do you need assistance with translation? Are you Carolina Durán?
No, Colleen Cusack.
Okay. Carolina Durán, si está aquí, por favor venga enfrente y estar en uno de los asientos reservados. Gracias.
So Colleen Cusack?
Yes.
Go ahead. You can have up to 1 minute.
I wanted to thank Council President Elo Rivera for putting this on the agenda. It's very welcome. Finally, I've been pointing out that housing is a human right for the clients I'm representing, that the city is charging with the crimes of sitting, standing, and sleeping in public when they have no other non-public option. So I'm hoping that in tandem with the Housing as a Human Right Declaration, we recognize that criminalization violates that human right and other human rights, and it can't work in cooperation with the Housing as a Human Right agenda. Thank you very much for discussing this very, very, very important point. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith Morgan? Keith Morgan, if you could come forward. And I'll just note Andy Kopp also submitted a speaker slip in favor on item 603, but did not wish to speak. Keith Morgan, last call. Carlos Hernandez. Carolina or Carolina Duran? Keith Morgan is coming in. Okay. So Keith Morgan, if you come forward. You can have up to 1 minute, sir.
Okay. How's everybody doing, first off? My situation is that I'm a disabled, elderly person, and there's things going on that I don't really understand or withstand in this city or this county as far as helping people in my situation. I don't think that there's enough being done to actually consider what needs to be done for people in my situation. Probably because there's not many people in this situation. My disability has to do with not being able to walk. My living situation is even worse. I live in a place that's very um, disrupted to my mental abilities. It's disturbing me pretty bad.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to help people in my situation. I don't know how to. I don't have advocates working for me, even
Thank
though
you, sir.
there's supposed to be some appointed. Um,
Thank you,
uh,
sir. Your time has expired. Thank you so much for your testimony.
okay.
With that, that closes our in-person testimony. I'm going to go ahead and start the timer for our virtual queue. We do have 22 folks in our virtual queue wishing to speak. So we'll begin with Carl Aldinger. Carl, you'll be followed by Janice Wilds, followed by David, and you can have up to 1 minute. Go ahead, Carl.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Carl Aldinger, speaking on behalf of Sierra Club San Diego. Sierra Club supports this resolution to declare housing as a human right. We recognize and condemn the past policies written to create grave inequity. As the resolution reminds us, there is much work needed to correct these injustices and provide more inclusive and affordable housing for everyone in the city. And this is reinforced by resolving to address it. We thank Council President Ela Rivera and all who have helped in this effort, including the Partnership for the Advancement of New Americans, PANA, for taking on the issues of affordable housing, tenant rights, and other solutions for people who are experiencing being unhoused. Thank you.
Thank you. Janice Wilds, followed by David, followed by Kira O'Laughlin.
Hello, this is Janice Wilds. I think this is a great declaration, and thank you, Sean, for bringing it forward. There were two areas that I think are very important. Declarations of housing as a human right fall short unless matched with progressive actions toward fulfilling that right. That's a big ask. We need to do that. And by not threatening individuals with civil or criminal penalties because they are homeless. We need to stop that. You know, I've asked the council before to stand up against the police sweeps. The police sweeps that happened during the Padres run were absolutely horrendous on our unhoused residents. They are all suffering from PTSD from that. It causes people to do harmful drug and alcohol for self-medicating because of their cortisol is always high. We can't do this resolution and continue to criminalize living on the street when there is nowhere else for people to go. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. David, followed by Kira O'Laughlin, followed by Lori Saldana. We have 20 speakers in the queue. David?
Thank you. This is David Baker, representing the San Diego Youth Homelessness Consortium and the Housing Our Youth Collaborative, speaking in support of item 603, and I'm here to unequivocally affirm that housing is a basic human right. I would also like to highlight that housing is not one size fits all, and the issue of homelessness takes many forms. And as you've heard, addressing the issue requires much more than just housing. I believe this declaration is one of the early steps that we are taking to address and readdress the issue. I believe that we have an opportunity to craft a system that is early, efficient, and equitable. I want to thank you all for elevating the issue of homelessness. And I also want to encourage you all to continue cultivating a culture of change. This work is difficult and it's not easy to tackle without a strong policy and progressive action. And also a commitment to truly reinforcing housing as a basic right. So thank you all. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Kira O'Laughlin, followed by Lori Saldana, followed by Victoria Abrencia.
Good morning, good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Kiara O'Laughlin. I normally speak on behalf of CPI, but I wanted to provide a bit more personal perspective today as someone who grew up in the city of San Diego. Growing up, I lived in 10 different houses or apartments before the age of 18. Every few years, I experienced an upheaval of life as I knew it, having to start over with a new house, new friends, and new schools. Thankfully, my family had a strong support system, often moving in with family members for periods of time, but many do not have that luxury. One bad financial situation and everything can change. A landlord's greedy decision to raise the rent an exorbitant amount, and yet another family enters homelessness. Housing is critical to physical and mental health, quality of life, access to education, and positive economic outcomes. Given this role, safe, stable, and affordable housing is a necessity to achieving many other human rights, including security and safety, and should be a human right in and of itself. You have the opportunity today to affirm that right. And as someone who helped craft the initial draft of the resolution, I urge you to pass it and urgently follow through with a commitment to other strong housing
Thank you, ma'am.
policies to
Thank
make
you
the
so
city
much.
a safe and stable place to live.
Thank you. Lori Saldana, followed by Victoria Abernica, followed by Samsung SMG99 8U.
Good morning. Thank you for the resolution. It's a good start, but it needs to note that over 20% of San Diego's unhoused residents are our Black family members. This reflects San Diego's ongoing racism, housing discrimination, and the criminalization of our Black residents. And until and unless this resolution specifically addresses this ongoing criminalization and racism and the daily police actions authorized by Mayor Todd Gloria, they will not reduce the trauma unhoused residents are facing that undermines their trust in police, their inability to work with caseworkers on a continuous basis, and you will see more violence against unhoused people, along with more lawsuits and costly settlements. So if you want a resolution with some meat on it, add that you want to stop these police sweeps, add safe places for people. Otherwise, you simply increase the time and cost of getting people into safe, secure housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Saldana. Victoria Abernica, followed by Samsung SM, followed by 3856. And, oh, excuse me, Victoria, before you go forward, you may have heard the chime sound. So our queue was frozen at 18 additional virtual speakers. So we'll only be taking 18 additional speakers from our virtual queue. Victoria, please unmute yourself. You can have up to 1
Hello,
minute.
thank you for inviting us all into this conversation. I'm here speaking in favor of housing as a human right. There are over 8,000 individuals in our county without a place to go home to, and this is an issue here in the city of San Diego, and too many of our community members are living on the streets. We are just coming out of a global pandemic where many of us have lost our homes, livelihoods, and loved ones. And while we're coming out of this pandemic, we're entering a recession and are in the midst of a climate crisis. It's more expensive to rent in the city of San Diego than Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and Oakland. In addition, we have to pay the highest utility rates in the country, and our wages aren't increasing at the same rate, and we can't continue to protect those who are profiting off of our suffering. Again, I'm here speaking in favor of housing as a human right. And as we call ourselves America's finest city and declare housing as a human right today here in San Diego, we must stop street sweeps, expand access to free, affordable housing, decriminalize our unhoused folks or anyone living in their homes or cars, increase the amount of public restrooms throughout our city, and look to our unhoused folks
Thank
as
you.
to what services they need. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and I'm here speaking in favor of housing as a human right.
Thank you. Samsung, followed by 3856, followed by Blair Beekman. We have 16 speakers in the queue. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Al Del Mastro, and I'm a mom and pop small landlord in Claremont. I have small duplexes. I'm a blue collar worker, and I'm a veteran. And I'm in recovery for 37 years. Me and my wife have played by the rules and saved our money, lived frugally, and still live in one of our apartments. We have never been to court, or have we ever evicted anybody. No one's ever taken us to court for it either. But I think it's a little bit unfair that this council is misinformation about landlords, that AB 1482 doesn't apply. It's also been illegal for a landlord for many years to ask for first, last, and a security deposit. We have taken people in our homes that have been homeless. They've taken our stuff, and like our lawnmowers and stuff. And we've just looked at it like, we like new stuff. We are part of this community, and it's a shame that you'll ruin our retirement
Thank you,
plan.
sir. Thank you so
And
much.
the thing is that this city council
Thank
is
you,
taking a
sir.
70%
I'm
raise
sorry, sir,
increase
your time
during
has
the
expired.
pandemic.
Thank you so much for your comments. 3856.
Clerk, just very quickly, just a reminder to folks online that we're currently taking public comment on item 603, which is a resolution to declare housing as a human right in the city of San Diego. The conversation about the update to the tenant protection ordinance is to follow.
Thank you. So 3856, followed by Blair Beekman, followed by 6273. Go ahead.
My name is Carol Otterstedt. I'm a real estate broker, and I've lived in San Diego my entire life. Housing is not a human right. It is completely misguided in philosophy. I'm an advocate for personal accountability and living within one's means. We live in a very expensive area. Not all community members can live here. I want to speak to the issue of private property ownership rights versus public housing. Property is owned by the landlord. This landlord has taken on multiple risks and upon purchase receives a bundle of rights. These rights are the right of possession, control, enjoyment, disposition, and exclusion. These same rights are available to tenants if they purchase property, which I am a huge advocate of. As tenants, they have not taken the risk, and therefore they do not have these protections that goes with the terrain. They don't own the property. This fairy tale version that the tenants should have more stability afforded to them by private property ownership is just plain outright wrong and should be illegally challenged as well. Leases are contracts between private parties. They should not be up for government review to this degree. And in a free
Thank you,
society,
ma'am.
where the city of San Diego says the rules are
Thank you
with
so
extreme
much.
favor to one party. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Blair Beekman, followed by 6273, followed by Chris Olson. Mr. Beekman?
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. Thank you for the clarification by the council person. I would like to, at the tenant protection time, talk about the importance of 7-day warnings before sweeps take place. So thank you for that. For this item, just very much of a thank you in your work as a council and community in working towards human rights issues with tenants issues. Believe it or not, owners can actually have a sense of their rights too, so they don't have to feel totally excluded in this process. But it's just so important that we are considering tenants' rights. And that there is a series of issues, the work with technology accountability, Medicare for all, wage theft issues to ensure there isn't wage theft issues. All of these issues with a good progressive idea and direction can really invite all parts of the community. And I mean all parts of the community. Good luck how we can do that here in San Diego. Thank you.
Thank you. 6273, followed by Chris Olson, followed by 1398. Go ahead.
Hello, this is Martha Sullivan with the San Diego Housing Emergency Alliance. And I want to thank the council president for bringing this resolution forward. You're following the leadership of our Housing and Urban Development Secretary, Marcia Fudge, who's the first U.S. Secretary to declare housing as a human right. I want to urge the council as a whole to retain the reference in the original draft to not threatening individuals with civil or criminal penalties because they are homeless as one of the actions that must be taken in order to activate this resolution. The option B that I've read, I can't find any similar reference, and that's an egregious omission. And I fear that it's a deliberate omission.
Thank you so much for your comments. Chris Olson, followed by Apartment Owners Association, followed by 7968. Mr. Olson?
Hi, good afternoon, Council President and members of the City Council. I'm Chris Olson, Chief of Staff at Jewish Family Service of San Diego, calling in to express JFS's support for this resolution. Homelessness is solved with homes, and that includes creating housing security for people currently housed, but who are at risk of losing their housing. Thank you to the authors of this resolution, and we look forward to working with the city in partnership with other human services providers in our community to help implement the bold policies that will come as a result of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. And just a reminder to folks that our queue was frozen at 18 virtual speakers, so we'll only be taking 11 additional virtual speakers. Apartment Owners Association, followed by 7968, followed by Balin Hernandez.
Yes, hi, thank you very much. My name is Jeff Fowler, President of the Apartment Owners Association. Dear City Council members, I oppose housing as a human right, otherwise known as free housing as a human right. There are state and local ordinances in place to protect tenants. There are courts that will serve justice on any landlord who takes advantage of a tenant. There's tons of free legal assistance for tenants. The underlying duty of public officials is to uphold the provisions made in the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Housing is not a protected right within the Constitution. However, people who own property are protected from people using it without permission. This is the difference between a free country and a socialist country. It's the difference between a hand up and a handout. It's the choice between the American dream and socialized housing. Public housing is such a failure. Public housing birthed Section 8 out of its own failure. Where is the public housing success? It's not there. Crime, below standard schools, segregation. Look how it traps.
I'm sorry,
the
sir.
people
I'm so
in
sorry.
houses
Your
to
time
build.
has expired. I apologize. 7968, followed by Balin Hernandez, followed by Mitchell Woodson. 7968, that's Joyce Nyata.
Thank you, City Clerk Malin, for allowing me to speak. Joyce Anyata, District 3. Thank you, Council President Elo Rivera and Maya, and all others. Now, from the presentation, thank you so much for honoring Eleanor Roosevelt. That's a wonderful photo of her with the wonderful with the Universal Declaration. From our declaration, it resolved, the council declares the right to housing as a fundamental human right linked to dignity and the right to life. Eleanor Roosevelt would be proud. Thank you for listening. Love to all.
Thank you. Balin Hernandez, followed by Mitchell Woodson, followed by Catherine Rhodes.
Good morning, City Council. This is Belen Hernandez, Policy Advocate with Mid-City CAD. We are pleased to learn that the City of San Diego City Council recognizes that keeping San Diegans housed is a priority. Our city needs to take numerous steps still to get people housed, but this resolution is part of it. It is part of getting us on the same page about values to start addressing homelessness and the displacement that we've been seeing. Thank you for your support on this, and we look forward to also hearing about the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Mitchell Woodson, followed by Catherine Rhodes, followed by JOC.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Woodson, and I'm the Executive Director and Managing Attorney for Think Dignity, a local homeless advocacy agency. Recently, a man, visibly distraught, attended one of our programs in hopes of finding some housing resources to support his wife and 15-month-old daughter. His voice trembled with desperation as he shared with us the challenges of trying to provide a roof for his family, concern of his wife falling into a deep depression, and the anguish he felt at the mere thought of having to raise his daughter on his own. The distress written on his face was piercing, the pain in his voice was palpable, and his hopelessness was heart-wrenching. Fortunately, our staff jumped into action and connected with community partners who wrapped their arms around this family and got them into a place to call their own. Sadly, this story is not unique, and these are stories that we hear often, stories of people, stories of families, stories of community members struggling to survive, struggling to meet their basic needs and simply to exist. We have an obligation to protect our people, and this resolution is a critical step to demonstrate our city's commitment to ensuring that our communities are a priority.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your comments. Catherine Rhodes, followed by JOC, followed by Lily Irani.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes. Thank you very much for this. Please pick the ordinance version which states that the City Council will not threaten individuals with civil or criminal penalties because they are homeless. Will the City Council stop the sweeps and get rid of the encroachment municipal code law or not? I'm not sure. And make sure in your new regional housing needs assessment report, you put in that you're destroying 5,400 affordable units with your short-term residency occupancy permits that are coming out. And please support Housing for the Homeless and Amy Zamudio, who houses homeless seniors without city support. This is literally your job that she's doing with you, and she really needs money. So hopefully this, you could do something to help her. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And just to remind folks that we did freeze the virtual queue at 18. We will be taking six additional speakers. Let me list those speakers now. JOC, Lily Irani, Justin Campbell, Manuel Enriquez, Patty Medina, and phone number ending in 9011. Those will be our final speakers. Jay, please unmute yourself. You'll be followed by Lily and then Justin.
Hello, Council. This is Jay with Central Planning. I'm sorry we failed at net zero by next Tuesday. We may never get that chance again. Thank you so much for mentioning the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights and not the Constitution, Bill of Rights, etc. in these efforts. Central Planning hired the best of Madison Avenue to make people associate the UN with happy stuff, and we have succeeded. Thank you also for not mentioning Fed policy in regards to destroying the American taxpayer. Domestic terrorist types keep mentioning that, if you print trillions of dollars of money, then eviscerate the money velocity with a lockdown, you could have some problems. But this council chose not to mention that, so thank you very much. World Economic Forum suggests we house people with shipping containers. They're doing that in LA. This is a true story. So housing might be a human right, but that doesn't mean windows need to be a human right. So no windows. Elon Musk, he's got tiny houses. Maybe we can do a trade, tiny houses for homeless brains. That's just an idea I've been working on. We can do it for Neuralink. Doesn't matter if we get sued into oblivion doing this. Most importantly, don't do anything Houston does. Ignore Texas.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your comments. Lily Irani, followed by Justin Campbell, followed by Manuel Enriquez.
Hi, I'm calling to unequivocally support housing as a human right. I'm a professor at UCSD. This affects my students. For 2-3 years, we've had problems of students unable to find housing or having to move in the middle of the quarter because they get no fault evicted. I have students who are afraid to access either existing housing rights because they're afraid of getting blacklisted and not being able to find housing in a really competitive market. Even in tech workers coalition, software workers, I have a friend who lives in a building where there's 4 tech workers. They're all getting evicted, and they found out that the management company just wants to kick them out to double the rent, which is actually illegal, and probably be hearing from them soon. Housing should not be a commodity built, traded, torn down, and built up based on speculative bubbles. And for the landlords who've called in against this, I would just remind them that the landlord's hold on land and property, according to this Constitution, was fundamentally stolen from Indigenous people. The freedom to dispossess people and then charge them rent to live has shown its results in the inequality of our society. And many people who are speaking up say they're tired of it.
Thank you
Time's
so
up.
much.
Thank you.
Manuel Enriquez, followed by Patty Medina, followed by 9011. Those will be our 3 final speakers. Manuel. Manuel Enriquez.
So I'm calling in support of the Declaration of Housing as a Human Right in the city of San Diego. We definitely have a lot of issues that lead to folks not being able to rent or buy homes. Everyone deserves housing, and we need to stop these practices of evicting people to renovate a house or just to rent at a higher rate. There should be market caps, there should be caps to rent increases, and there should be programs to support first-time home buyers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patty Medina, followed by 9011. Those will be our final 2 speakers.
Hello, my name is Patty Medina. I am an ANS member leader. I'm calling to ask you for stronger protections like no-follow ordinance. Lots of families and seniors, disabled, and people are being evicted in high numbers. High rents, crazy requirements, really long waiting for Section 8. And if they complain or ask to be fixed for their homes, they say, if you don't like it, you can just go away. And they paying like really high rents and absurd excuses for them to be kicked out. Depression and mental health are increasing because of the fear of losing their homes or end up on the streets. To prevent thousands of families to be lost in the broken homeless system, they need to be, we don't want to be the #1 homeless city in the country. Thank you so much for the presentation, and housing is a human right. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker, 9011, phone number ending in 9011.
Hi, good afternoon, City Council. My name is Karen Matke. I'm a trustee for my parents' property. I have not received rent from this gentleman since December of last year. He has been, the neighbors have been complaining about what he's done in the neighborhood. So now I have code enforcement sending me letters that they're going to fine us. We are in the process of eviction because he has totally ruined the neighborhood and the house. What is his rights? What are my rights? My mom is in memory care and I have to pay $5,500 a month for her care. Where is any recourse to help us, landlords? That is what I want to know.
Thank you, ma'am. And with that, Council President, that concludes our public testimony on item 603.
Thank you, Clerk, and thank you to all the members of the public for your participation, for sharing your thoughts on this. Very much appreciated. I will once again thank the advocates, the members, and my colleagues for their input on this. And with that, I will make the following motion. I think we've got a slide prepared so that we know exactly what's in front of us. So we will be making a motion to request the City Attorney's Office work with the offices of Council Districts 1, 4, 7, and 9 to prepare a resolution for City Council's consideration to declare housing as a human right. That is my motion, and we'll now turn to my colleagues, beginning with Council President Pro Tem Montgomery Steppe.
Thank you, Council President. I will second the motion. I want to thank you and your staff, Maya, Lydia, everyone that has been working on this. We know since the moratorium was lifted that, we are, as a council, wanting to bring forward additional tenant protection. So I appreciate this as a step in that direction. And with the next item as the workshop, I'm looking forward to that conversation. So I won't say everything here with regard to the resolution, but I do want to thank all of the advocacy groups that have been involved in helping to draft the language for this resolution. And we know that there's a correlation here with the declaration that the United Nations has made, in addition to what, is the language that is before us today. I do believe that housing is a resource for human beings that seek reprieve after a long day at work, protection from harsh elements of weather, and a place of solace for every individual and every family. I know that we have been discussing San Diego's housing crisis for decades. We know that it is not an issue that happened overnight. Years of urban neglect and discriminatory practices against people and families of color created policies that dictated access to housing. This legacy of discrimination and segregation plays out today through the lower homeownership rates of Black and brown San Diegans, through the higher rate of Black San Diegans who are unsheltered and without a home, and through the devastating growth of people in our unsheltered population in general. And it should not be acceptable to know that last year, 15,000 people experienced homelessness for the first time. We are housing people, but there's a faster rate of folks that are going into homelessness. So we have to acknowledge that as a council. I think this resolution is a step into doing that. Thank you, Council President, for being courageous in putting this before the council. The one last thing that I'll say is there was a United Nations representative who came here to San Diego and recognized our criminalization of homelessness and people sleeping out of their cars. So we have to further act on this resolution and create progressive policies that get people into homes. Thank you again, and I second your motion.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. So we've got a motion and a second on the floor. We'll now go to Councilmember LaCava, followed by Councilmember Campillo.
Thank you, Council President. Before I begin my remarks and to ensure that we provide clear direction in our request to the City Attorney's Office, should we amend the motion to refer to version B so that our colleagues understand which version we're going forward with?
I think the idea is that we can utilize both of those copies and with the 4 of our offices to continue to work toward finding the best version of language possible. It sounds like I think we've got option B there for folks to provide feedback on today. We've got the initial one that was the initial draft that was uploaded, and then our 4 offices can work together to try to merge those with obviously continued heavy input and the drafting from the City Attorney's Office.
Okay.
And perhaps adding, we could add it if you'd like. Obviously, if you want to make the amendment, happy to incorporate it.
I'll make that amendment. I don't know if there'll be a friendly amendment to add based on version B, which still gives us the flexibility to work with the City Attorney's Office and what gets brought forward when it gets docketed a second time. But I think it would be helpful to kind of set up parameters, especially for our colleagues who may not be as familiar with this going forward.
Council President Pro Tem.
Fine with that.
Okay. You can incorporate that into the motion.
Okay, thank you. Realizing that we have ultimate legislative authority in terms of when this does get brought back for a final vote. Thank you for that clarification. And I will thank you, Council President, your staff for the heavy lift in docketing this item. My colleagues, President Pro Tem Monica Montgomery Stepp and Councilmember Campillo for joining us in co-sponsoring the resolution. Thank you to Madam City Attorney and your staff for the work on this resolution. And thank you to the organizations that fight the good fight every day and to those who spoke and stated their position one way or the other on this item. I believe that housing is a human right, and today the council has an opportunity to declare that every San Diegan should have a secure and dignified place to call home and at a price they can afford. Housing is the basis for stability and security for individuals and families. We have relied for decades on private landowners, private capital, and private home builders to deliver homes for San Diegans. The city has implemented an array of programs and policies to incentivize new housing that is truly affordable, but too often results in homes that are affordable to only a few. Yet policy and politics are not enough to change the market and what the private sector will bear. We must fundamentally change the housing conversation. Change means putting city-owned land on the table to remove land costs as an obstacle to deliver truly affordable housing. The council did exactly that in last month's resolution. Change means expanding the old conversation of just build to build and protect. For too long, we have focused on the delta between existing homes and our housing mandate, and we missed the fact that our existing base of truly affordable units is crumbling beneath us. Since 2000, 66,000 homes became unaffordable, and more telling, income restrictions on over 2,300 homes expired. The loss of truly affordable housing translates to displacement of families, financial ruin, and in too many cases, homelessness. I've talked about housing. Now let me shift to how this affects San Diegans at the lower rungs of the economy. Extraordinary good work by the City of San Diego, the San Diego Housing Commission, and our regional partners over the past 12 months saw nearly 12,000 individuals moving from homelessness to stable housing. That is good news, but not all the news. The Regional Task Force on the Homeless also reported that over 15,000 fell into homelessness for the first time. Let me repeat that. Over 15,000 individuals fell into homelessness for the first time during the past 12 months. We must stop this alarming trend. We must protect the stability and security of those with housing while we fight for adequate and truly affordable housing for those without. Federal laws do not guarantee a right to housing. Instead, federal law offers freedom from housing discrimination through the Fair Housing Act. That I might add, the City of San Diego actually took initiatives to expand the Fair Housing Act. I believe in housing as a human right. I join the mayor and my colleagues in delivering policy, budgets, and most importantly, action that keep San Diego's housed, that address the root causes of homelessness, and that provide pathways to housing San Diego's experiencing homelessness. We can do no less. Thank you, Council President. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Councilor LaCava. So we've got the amended motion on the floor. It's up on the slide right there. We'll now go to Councilmember Campillo, followed by Councilmember Von Wilper.
Thank you, Council President. I'm happy to support the resolution, the motion in front of us today. Safe and stable and affordable housing was first recognized as a human right in the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights and has since been reaffirmed in many international treaties and resolutions and declarations. And that's because housing is a critical asset to many other parts of our life, including our physical and mental health, the quality of our life itself, access to education, economic outcomes, and among many others. Indeed, it makes no sense to talk about human rights, which are designed to promote a good life, if housing is not one of them, since it is so central to achieving all of them. Given this role, safe, stable, and affordable housing is a necessity to achieving these human rights, including security and safety. And international human rights law recognizes that everyone has a right to adequate standard of living. How can we achieve that unless we recognize that housing is at the core of that? Millions around the world live in life-threatening or health-threatening conditions or in other conditions that do not uphold their other human rights and their dignity. And so housing is a central tool to meeting all of our constituents' needs, whether they be health, economic, environmental, social, and cultural. It is self-evident that housing is a human right, and anyone who would perceive our rights through the original position or behind the veil of ignorance, as philosopher John Rawls instructed us to, so that we could see what type of society we would build if we did not know where our life would go, with no knowledge ahead of time of where we would end up in our society, would undoubtedly say that housing is a human right and is something to be expected. Of course, there are many rights that we have to balance. Someone brought up the United States Constitution, the right to property. Undoubtedly, that is a core right as well. And we have to balance these rights amongst all others so that there is fairness in our society. But we can't start anywhere unless we recognize the people in our city who do not have housing are suffering. In fact, they are the victims of homelessness. They are not simply just homeless. So I support this motion before us, look forward to working with the city attorney's office and all the other offices in the motion to continue to draft a resolution we can be proud of. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Campillo. Councilmember Von Wilper.
Thank you, Council President. I think I got my question resolved, but thank you for bringing this forward. I appreciate everyone working on this. And I think version B, I think that was my question. So which one's version A, which one's version B? Oh, this one says, oh, this one just doesn't say A. Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you very much for bringing this forward. I appreciate it. Thank you to all the council offices work on this. I too support housing as a human right. I'm really glad that you brought up the Declaration of Human Rights up with Eleanor Roosevelt, who is a hero of mine. She's wonderful. I also really want to thank the city attorney for working on this important resolution as well. You know, we have to make sure that we do balance everything. And the comment was made earlier that we have to go forth with our legislative priorities, but I also do believe we should avoid litigation where we can, because those are opportunity costs. You know, I did work on the city's homelessness litigation, 4 class actions against the city when I was a deputy city attorney. And I sat there taking depositions with homeless individuals. I sat there taking depositions with law enforcement officers. I was in courtrooms. The mayor came with me. And I thought, how much money is this costing us? And what could we be doing with this? We could be building new bridge shelters with this. Instead of having a court reporter here, we could actually be putting programs that we needed, hiring social workers. And the lawsuits did not resolve homelessness. And so I do appreciate the balance and the need to make sure we put forth things in a concerted way. Granted, we tried to ban plastics in this city, single-use plastics, and we got sued under CEQA for not allowing it to go forward. So we will get sued often, but I do appreciate that there is an opportunity cost if we don't do this right, and so to balance that as well. So thank you everyone for being here. I really do support this. I'm glad for bringing this forward, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. We'll go to Councilmember Whipper, followed by Councilmember Campbell.
Thank you, Council President. I too want to thank you and your team for bringing this forward. Also appreciate Councilmember LaCava and Council President Pro Tem Montgomery Stepp and Councilmember Campillo for their co-sponsorship of this item. I have a quick question for the City Attorney. Madam City Attorney, I took note of your comments in opening this discussion. It appears that a majority of the City Council is comfortable with this motion, but I wanted to check with you and see if this motion is also a comfortable approach from your standpoint.
It is, and I appreciate you asking. Today is an information item, but we're receiving direction from you, so we know what our marching orders are, and I think we got sufficient information so we can work with the committee to bring something back as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Whitburn. Councilmember Campbell?
Thank you, Council President. I just want to speak from my heart and say how much I appreciate this. Thank you for bringing it forward to my four colleagues. Housing is a human right. I am so old. I remember when we didn't have homelessness. We do not have to have homelessness. We need to fix this. We need to make a social safety net. So when you begin to have a problem, you have somewhere to go. You should be able to go, we hope, to your government and say, oh, I'm having so much trouble with this or that or that. What should I do? How can I proceed? And to do this early on so that you don't fall out of housing. So the whole social safety net, everything involved with homelessness, it's very complicated. There are so many things involved, but that doesn't mean we can't fix it. We definitely can get this fixed. And this is a wonderful first step to get us on that road. And I want to thank you guys for bringing this forward. I look forward to working with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. So the action before us is a motion put forward by myself and seconded by Councilmember Montgomery Stepp to request the City Attorney's Office work with the offices of Council Districts 1, 4, 7, and 9 to prepare a resolution based on version B for City Council's consideration to declare housing as a human right. With that motion on the floor and seconded, clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Council President. I'm queuing up our voting system. We'll ask that all council members please register your vote on item 603. And with that, the item passes unanimously with Councilmember Kate and Councilmember Moreno absent.
Thank you very much, clerk. So with that, we will move now to item 601. Please introduce that item.
Thank you, Council President. Item 601 is an informational item only. This is a workshop on a framework for amending the Tenant's Right to Know ordinance. If you're here in council chambers and you wish to speak on item 601, please submit your speaker slip as soon as possible. That really helps us with meeting management. And if you're in our virtual queue, please tap the raise your hand icon.
Thank you so much, clerk. So we will turn back to Maya. If you'd like to introduce yourself once again for the record and let us know how much time you'd like for this presentation.
Thank you, Council President. Good afternoon, Council President Pro Tem Montgomery Stepp, and council members. Again, my name is Maya Rosas with Council President Sean Ela Rivera's office, and I'm joined today with my Chief of Staff, Lydia Van Note, to present an informational item for input on a framework for amending the Tenant's Right to Know ordinance, and we will need 15 minutes for our presentation.
Thank you, Maya. Please proceed.
Today, we will introduce a framework for strengthening tenant protections in San Diego after a brief review of the need for tenant protections and background on current protections in place. The framework includes the 7 sections listed on this slide. Following the discussion of this item, our next step is to bring forward an ordinance for discussion that is developed using feedback and direction received. Today's goal is to receive guidance from the council. According to the Regional Task Force on Homelessness, in the last 12 months, 11,861 people experiencing homelessness were connected to housing. However, 15,327 people who were previously housed became homeless for the first time. Put more simply, 10 people experiencing homelessness were connected to housing for every 13 people who began experiencing homelessness for the first time in San Diego County. Tragically, we are not lifting people out of homelessness as fast as San Diegans are falling into homelessness, and that is not for lack of investments and monumental efforts dedicated to addressing this crisis. During the city's no-fault eviction moratorium, which was in place from June 1st through September 30th of this year, Legal Aid Society of San Diego, which provides legal services to tenants, experienced a 35% decrease in requests for assistance with no-fault eviction notices from City of San Diego households. This clearly demonstrates the effectiveness of and need for strengthened tenant protections to prevent the unnecessary loss of housing stability and slow the tide of San Diegans falling into homelessness. The Tenant's Right to Know ordinance, which provides the current tenant protections in place in the city, was adopted in 2004. Assembly Bill 1482, which went into effect in 2020, provides eviction protections for renters. AB 1482's eviction protections, which are significantly stronger than the Tenant's Right to Know ordinance, do not apply in the city of San Diego because of a provision that limits its applicability to jurisdictions without an already existing just cause ordinance, like the Tenant's Right to Know ordinance. San Diego provides fewer protections than AB 1482, which means San Diegans are more vulnerable to evictions than the rest of the state since 2020. AB 1482 also created a statewide rent cap, which does apply in San Diego and is in effect. The discussion framework presented today does not include rent stabilization or rent control policies. Before jumping in, a quick refresher that tenants may be evicted for a number of causes, and it's important to differentiate between the different types of evictions. No-fault evictions are when a tenant is evicted through no fault of their own. They are paying their rent and following all the rules, but are still allowed to be evicted from their home. Issues like non-payment of rent or violating the lease fall under the category of at-fault evictions. This framework proposes different types of protections depending on if the cause is no fault or at fault. Now I'll review the framework, which was included as the attachment to the staff report for this item. The first section of our framework is addressing the current delay in tenant protections. All people need and deserve housing stability, and tenants should be afforded protections upon their lease going into effect. Those who have recently moved are likely to have fewer financial resources available to them after paying for moving expenses, security deposit, and other costs. Delaying tenant protections allows for conditions where a San Diego family can spend thousands of dollars to move into a home, only to shortly after find themselves searching for housing and being forced to pay for moving expenses all over again. Therefore, we propose no delay in receiving any future tenant protections. Homelessness and displacement prevention. A tenant who pays their rent and complies with their lease should not live in fear that an eviction will leave them unable to continue living in San Diego or forced to the streets. For tenants who pay their rent and follow all the rules but are evicted for no fault of their own, relocation assistance of 3 months' rent based on current fair market rent should be provided to displaced renters to assure continued housing stability. With sky-high rents continuing to climb and a low supply of available housing, an eviction could mean that individuals and families need to have $8,000 to $10,000 for first and last month's rent, moving costs, application fees, and other expenses. That's an amount that many people don't have available even with several weeks' notice. Additional relocation assistance for seniors helps secure stability while finding a new affordable home that meets their needs. Seniors are more likely to live on fixed incomes and be less mobile, making finding a new home and moving on short notice even more difficult. Tenants who are temporarily forced to relocate while improvements are made should not have to pay additional expenses out of pocket and should be entitled to a per diem to cover their expenses. Causes for eviction. No San Diegan should live in constant fear of being forced from their home. Unfortunately, current San Diego laws make it too easy for bad actors to kick renters out for minor issues without providing an opportunity to remedy, whether to evict tenants for discriminatory purposes or for pure financial gain. One current cause for eviction that is being exploited is illegal use. Landlords are effectively given the power of police, prosecutor, judge, and jury to determine if there has been an illegal use. This provides landlords, who already enjoy a tremendous power imbalance with tenants, far too much opportunity to unfairly remove people from their home. Actual illegal activity can be addressed through code or law enforcement. It should not be the landlord's role to enforce laws or act as the judicial system. And if a tenant's illegal activities causes a nuisance or violates their lease, those are already causes for at-fault eviction. Removing refusal to renew lease as a cause for eviction removes the ability for a landlord to require unreasonable conditions in a lease renewal and threaten eviction if the tenant does not agree to renew the lease. Lease renewals can be mutually agreed upon or otherwise deferred to a month-to-month structure. Refusing to renew a lease should not be grounds for eviction. No other causes in the tenant's right to know ordinance are proposed to be removed. On screen are the 3 types of no-fault evictions allowed in the current tenant's right to know ordinance and in this framework. We propose to narrow the applicability of existing no-fault evictions that can take place, increase noticing requirements, and require relocation assistance. For example, we propose developing accountability measures to ensure that Ellis Act evictions are not abused, and we propose that students during the school year, as well as seniors, disabled, or terminally ill tenants, should be protected from owner or relative occupancy evictions entirely. We also propose making correction of violations only permissible for temporarily displacing tenants, requiring tenants be allowed to return after improvements are made. On screen are the at-fault eviction causes allowed in the current protections and in the proposed framework. In order to keep San Diegans housed, tenants should have the opportunity to remedy any issues before facing the ultimate consequence of eviction. However, there is currently no local requirement to allow a renter to fix an issue before being served an eviction notice. While these causes remain available for use to evict a tenant who may have done something wrong, we believe tenants should be given a chance to correct any issues with a week's notice instead of the state's minimal 3 business day notice to quit requirement. Non-payment of rent is and will continue to be a cause for eviction. We are not proposing any changes that would impact the ability of a landlord to evict a tenant if they are not paying the rent. We propose small changes to the applicability of the remainder of the at-fault causes, such as allowing reasonable subleasing agreements. Currently, subleasing can be cause for eviction. Allowing reasonable subleasing when it is not prohibited in the lease would provide tenants an opportunity to find a way to pay their rent if changes in their living situation occur. More details on proposals for each eviction cause are summarized in the appendix of the staff report attachment. Standard exemptions from protections remain under the discussion framework. However, renters who live in agency-owned or subsidized units are inherently lower-income individuals or families and should receive equal protections like anyone living in a market rate rental. Notice requirements. Move-in notices should be provided to all tenants, informing them of their rights and if their rental is exempt from San Diego's tenant protections. For at-fault evictions where the tenant may have some fault to warrant an eviction, tenants should have an opportunity to remedy the issue used to justify an eviction before facing the ultimate consequence of eviction. Currently, there is no requirement to allow a renter to fix an issue before being served an eviction notice beyond minimal state noticing laws. Any eviction notice should make clear what exemption or cause is used to justify the eviction and should provide information on resources available for the tenant to ensure continued housing stability. Buyout agreements provide an opportunity for tenants and landlords to come to an agreement without using the court system. While diverting from formal eviction proceedings is better for everyone, it is important for tenants to make an informed choice of their rights and any relocation entitlements without feeling pressured or threatened. This framework provides a process for how buyout agreements can benefit all parties in a situation where the landlord wants to evict the tenant and ensure accountability by requiring the agreement to be filed with the city. This section was not included in the framework in the staff report. We believe there must be a public accountability role to ensure that future protections are meaningful. Currently, it is left to the tenant to hold a landlord accountable to pursue any legal remedies or defend themselves through the court system. We envision that landlords are held accountable to comply with any tenant protections in place and that resources are dispersed to renters facing evictions to ensure a continuity of housing. This would require receiving and tracking eviction notices, developing a way to receive complaints of violations of tenant protections, the ability for the city to enforce compliance through civil proceedings, and connecting tenants receiving eviction notices to available resources. Council President Ela Rivera supports the creation of a rent registry, and a preliminary study on the creation of a rent registry was funded in the FY23 calendar. Some accountability measures could be folded into a future registry. However, we would like to develop an interim measures that would provide a glide path for a future registry that could perform these functions. We also want to highlight a few resources that are available for both tenants and landlords here on the screen. Thank you for your time. We look forward to hearing the input from the public and the council.
Thank you so much for the presentation, Maya. Great job again. I'll repeat this, but because I think that there's going to be considerable public input here. When we get to the conversation for colleagues, we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to move through a section at a time because there's a lot here and it's dense, so that folks have a chance to weigh in on each of the different sections that have been presented. That way we can really have a thorough conversation about each of the components of the framework. But before we get there, we have public comment. Clerk, please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Council President. Just to let folks know, we have 87 speakers here in council chambers. Once we've concluded with our speakers in chambers, we have 22 so far who have raised their hand in our queue. When I call your name, again, there are 4 seats up in the front. It would really help us out a lot if you would come forward and sit in the front row. It helps with meeting management. So Dan Fetter, you're our first speaker. You're going to be followed by Roberto Walls, followed by Ryan Huerta, followed by Kimberly Brown. So Kimberly, Ryan, and Roberto, please come to the front row. And Mr. Fetter, you have time seated by Leland Westbend. Is Leland present? If Leland, thank you. So you can have up to 2 minutes, sir.
Good afternoon, Council President, Elo Rivera, Council members, City Attorney, and IBA. My name is Dan Fetter. I'm CEO of F&F Properties. We're a multifamily property owner, developer headquartered North Park. Because time is short today, I'm going to pass out after I'm done speaking a letter providing details on our unique business model and the concerns we have with the framework being discussed today. In short, we take severely underutilized properties and utilize state and local ADU policies to significantly increase density within the urban core. To date, we have created and are in the process of creating more than 160 new homes through this business model. For now, I'd like to bring up just 4 quick points for further consideration and discussion. 1, the ramification of the draft policies, while some portions are legally questionable, are going to be destructive to more quality housing being built and being renovated. There's no doubt policies within the draft framework will create additional costs. Those will be passed on to our fellow citizens and all of your constituents, which does include all of us as well. 2, the unintended outcome of these policies, because of decreased construction and investment, will be less money collected for the county, less money for schools, less money for DSD, and many other government services. The draft does not take that into consideration. There are several hidden costs that will hurt our residents, our companies, again, all of which are constituents as well. The City of San Diego, as a result of what we've read in the draft policy, will become the least competitive city throughout the county of San Diego. I know that's not what the goal is. If the goal for the City Council is more housing being built and quality housing being maintained, this will do the opposite. It is physically impossible. Think of it in terms of a Lego set. There is no land. It is physically impossible to empty out a building or demolish it or to add more units. This framework is inconsistent with building, rebuilding existing older housing stock.
Thank you. Roberto Walls is our next speaker, followed by Ryan Huerta, followed by Kimberly Brown, followed by Molly Atkinson. Ryan, Kimberly, Molly, you should be in the front row. If you just put that down, we'll go ahead and collect it. But Roberto, please come forward. You can have up to 1 minute. Is Roberto here? Huerta, is Ryan present? Ryan, you can have up to 1 minute, followed by Kimberly Brown, Molly Atkinson, LaToya Ray.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Ryan Huerta. I've been in property management for 8 years now. My experience in the eviction process is crucial to maintaining a healthy lifestyle for all residents and staff members of rental communities. The eviction moratorium that came during the state level of the state of emergency changed because it wisely incorporated safety. This draft does not. And people will get hurt because management companies and owners can't protect them while awaiting prosecution and with an already short staff police force, DA's office, and a court system. One example that I had experience was where drugs were being trafficked in one of my communities between South 45th and Logan Avenue. It took multiple 911 calls until we finally had enough evidence to remove the tenant that was causing all the problems and as well as to the damages to the community. All I want to say is that to do this right, you will need the input of landlords and property managers to create a
sir.
policy that works.
Thank you, sir. Kimberly Brown is our next speaker, followed by Molly Atkinson, followed by Latoya Ray, followed by Daniel Wong. So Daniel, Latoya, and Molly, you should be in the front row. Go ahead.
Hello, City Council members. Thank you for hearing me. My name is Kimberly Brown. I'm a senior property manager with multiple years of experience in this industry. I wanted to share a couple valid points in speaking on behalf of owners, property managers, and many good residents that should be kept in the forefront through this plan. In referencing your recommendation of allowing reasonable subleasing, this would put landlords in a difficult position. Understanding who we have residing at our properties through our extensive qualifying criteria and background checks help us provide quality living experience for all of our good residents. Allowing an already problematic tenant to sublease would only increase the problem at hand, giving no opportunity in successfully managing those coming in and out of our properties. Finally, in regards to your recommendation of not allowing landlords to evict without a conviction of illegal behavior, would simply place us, the property managers, and more importantly, all of our other tenants in harm's way. To share one example, if I may, during the eviction moratorium, we had a prostitution ring occurring in one of our
Sorry,
units.
ma'am, your time has expired. I'm so
Please recall.
sorry.
Thank you
It's
for
a minute
hearing.
per person. I know it goes by fast, so folks think about that now. Molly Atkinson is our next speaker, followed by Latoya Ray, followed by Daniel Wong, followed by Chris Honeycutt.
Hello, my name is Molly Atkinson and I'm in maintenance. Thank you so much, esteemed council members, for listening to us in the housing industry on this draft. Currently, owners and developers pay residents to vacate for remodels, and we provide 60 to 90 days as part of the package. We also follow California AB 1482, which is good for residents and good for businesses. Adding more cost to the remodel process decreases the much needed funds to build more housing. 2 years ago, a garbage disposal was $65 and it came with a power cord. Today, that same garbage disposal is $139 and you have to buy the power cord separately. That's a 213% increase in just over 2 years. As council members, you probably didn't know that. Please invite those of us in the industry with the knowledge to share our knowledge and experience with the City of San Diego. Please allow all stakeholders a voice. Doing so will create strategic buy-in and a better economy for San Diego.
Latoya Ray, followed by Daniel Wong, followed by Chris Honeycutt, followed by Hank Navarro. Go ahead, ma'am. You can have up to 1 minute.
Hello, City Council members. My name is Latoya Ray, and I'm a certified property manager with the National Apartments Association. I have many experiences in not only conventional, but also affordable housing. The current draft will make it difficult for managers to eliminate bullies of women and other peoples in the communities we live and work in. During the moratorium, a bully brandished a gun in one of the properties, which was obvious safety issue. I engaged with our attorney and could not proceed with any way to remove this person from the community. The result was many residents, your constituents, fearful of their own homes, including myself. Additionally, there were other safety and quality living situations that we were not able to manage during the restrictions of the moratorium. Please keep us informed with a working group that has representation from the people that are working in the industry daily to ensure its success.
Thank you. Daniel Wong is our next speaker, followed by Chris Honeycutt, followed by Hank Navarro, followed by Nick Davison, and Nick, Hank, and Chris should all be in the front row.
Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Daniel Wong, and I currently hold a CPA license in the state of California. I've worked in the real estate industry in San Diego for the past 5 years, and I'm here in objection of the ordinance. As a CPA, I've seen many well-intentioned policies implemented at various levels of government that result in the exact opposite outcome as initially intended. Oftentimes, policy implementation results in hidden taxes that must be economically absorbed by some stakeholder. The proposed changes to tenant rights will pass on a significant percentage of these hidden taxes to your constituents, property owners, construction companies, community banks and lenders, and many other parties that are vital to help form and maintain a healthy and thriving real estate economy in San Diego. These proposed changes do not provide a clear path forward for all the aforementioned parties. While I believe the proposed changes do have good-natured intentions, I am skeptical that all relevant perspectives were adequately considered in the drafting of the discussion framework. When significant policy changes are proposed, like the one being discussed here today, it is imperative that industry professionals have a seat at the table throughout the entire process.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Chris Honeycutt is our next speaker. Chris, please come forward. You'll be followed by Hank Navarro, followed by Nick Davison, followed by Serena Pelka, and Serena, Nick, and Hank should all be in the front row. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Chris Honeycutt. I'm a property manager here in San Diego. I wish Mr. Elo Rivera was here to hear this. Hope he's getting a haircut somewhere. I guess most of all, I just want to make sure that we have a seat at the table as property owners, specifically with the city attorney. We have a lot of problems with the existing tenant right to know ordinance. We find it troubling that we're here adding to it when it's difficult to litigate it as it is because it was so poorly written. Really, the only people that we know that have won from that ordinance are the attorneys because it's so challenging to hear those cases in court when it's so unclear how to enforce. I'm not wholly in disagreement that housing is a human right. I just think it's important that we balance those rights with property owners and that we don't turn these periodic tenancies into life estates as they have been in other municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you. Hank Navarro is our next speaker, followed by Nick Davison, followed by Serena Pelka, followed by Lucinda Lilly. Lucinda, Serena, Nick, you should be in the front row. Go ahead.
Hi there, I'm Nick Davison. I'm a local property owner, and I want to let you know that I understand the issues with housing and appreciate the city's help trying to fix them. It's challenging to make landlords and tenants feel that they are being treated fairly. The question is, how do we get it done? I want to read one of many text messages that we get from tenants so you know we are doing our part. The tenant said, this has just happened last week, "I'm literally over here crying. I have been homeless for 5 years, and finally to hear that I'm going to be moving into a place absolutely amazing. I just want all of you guys to know I'm extremely thankful and grateful, and I appreciate all this. I urge the city to meet with landlords so that we can protect tenants and not result in reactive policies from landlords that will further worsen the issue. We're excited to meet with you guys and talk about solutions. Thank you."
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nick Davison. Nick, please come forward. You'll be followed by Serena Pelka, followed by Lucinda Lilly, followed by Kim Arnold. And Kim, Lucinda, and Serena, please come to the front row. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Hank Navarro. I think we switched spots, but that's all right. I'm just here. I'm on the front lines of the property management situation as well. And I think just a couple of items that other folks have mentioned. I absolutely agree with the subletting, letting tenants sublet. That just we lose control of who the residents are there, particularly if they have any kind of convictions that could be harmful to children. I think all I keep hearing is that you guys want to try to do something. We do want to do something too, but we really need to work together because I feel like there's a lot of things that you're missing in the fact that extending 4 days to a 3-day notice, we already don't put out notices till the middle of the month. We're working with our residents, and I encourage anybody that would love to come out for the day with me to see what we're doing, because I don't think you realize how much we are working with the community to make payments, to work with individuals that want to pay, but there's a lot that don't, and they want to take advantage of the situation with the moratorium and COVID relief money that was used for vacation versus rent. So thanks.
Thank you so much. Serena Pelka. Serena, please come forward. You'll be followed by Lucinda Lilly, Kim Arnold, Doug Tabor. Those three should be in the front row. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Serena Pelka, policy advocate with Climate Action Campaign, speaking in support of stronger tenant protections. San Diego has no rent control and very little tenant protections in place, an unacceptable reality in the face of the housing crisis. A tenant protection ordinance is an opportunity for the city to show a real commitment to equity, inclusivity, and sustainability. The city has waited until the last possible minute to act. Tenants no longer have access to the local, state, and federal eviction protections and rent relief programs put in place due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The last remaining protection for San Diego tenants also expired last month. The community has come together to advocate for stronger tenant protections for our most vulnerable neighbors, who are frankly scared they will be displaced. Currently, many families are having to choose between buying food and saving money for rent that they have fallen behind on. A tenant protection ordinance can truly be the policy that keeps our families and individuals from falling into homelessness. Please support stronger tenant protections. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucinda Lilly, followed by Kim Arnold, followed by Doug Tabor, followed by John Brady. And Lucinda, before you start, you have time seated by Alan Pentago. Is Alan present? If you'd raise your hand. Thank you. You can have up to 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Lucinda Lilly, and I currently serve as the president of the Southern California Rental Housing Association. We're an over 100-year organization representing rental housing providers and the small businesses that service rental properties. We're dedicated to professionalism in the industry and to the betterment of communities in which our members provide housing. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. We are appreciating the open dialogue being initiated at this meeting. Allowing all members of the community and stakeholders to weigh in is critical on this important topic. We understand the city is facing some unprecedented challenges, and we stand ready to help find robust and balanced solutions that help all council district and their residents, while preserving much-needed housing stock and continuing the conversation on adding housing supply. We know that today is just the beginning of the conversation. An inclusive, multi-pronged approach is the right way forward to educate, collaborate, and innovate. Educate all parties on the existing remedies, rights, and responsibilities. Collaborate so that we can clearly identify all the challenges and develop the appropriate solutions to support renters. And innovate so we can create new resources and solutions to carry San Diegans into the future. At the Southern California Rental Housing Association, we believe truly that rental housing is an ecosystem. Rental residents, rental housing providers, our elected leaders, and community groups are all part of this ecosystem. This ecosystem is integral to the conversations being initiated today. Again, thank you for the opportunity to address you today. The Southern California Rental Housing Association is committed to be a part of this conversation and this effort, and we're here for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim Arnold is our next speaker, followed by Doug Tabor, followed by John Brady, followed by Mustafa Asami. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Kim Arnold, and I'm a regional supervisor with Atlantic and Pacific Management, and I've been a property manager in San Diego for over 2 decades. I'm here today on behalf of the Southern California Rental Housing Association and also as the incoming president to the San Diego chapter of the Institute of Real Estate Management. Thank you for hearing from all of us today. The housing challenges the city is facing will benefit from such collaboration, and we stand by to work with this council and the community on solutions that benefit renters and help maintain and add to our housing supply. Creating more accessible rental housing is a team effort, and we hope that the City Council will consider an inclusive approach where residents, leaders, and rental providers can continue to provide feedback. By hearing from diverse perspectives, we're confident that effective solutions can be crafted to help ensure more equitable housing for everyone. Thank you again for the opportunity to address the council today. We are excited to work with the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug Tabor is our next speaker. Doug, you'll be followed by John Brady, followed by Mustafa Asami, followed by Victor Cowan. Victor, John, and Mustafa should be in the front row. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Doug Tabor. I sell apartment buildings and rental properties throughout San Diego County. When well-meaning policymakers, implementers such as yourself put new policies in place, many good long-term rental property owners choose to sell. This is great for my business. However, there are unintended consequences for the very tenants that you're trying to protect, such as rental owners have been vilified, but most long-term independent owners rarely raise rents or evict tenants. I look at the numbers every day. When they sell, I guarantee the new buyer will focus on raising rents. Our rental housing stock is old. It needs investment. If you continue to restrict how investors are able to improve this housing stock, it's just going to continue to get worse. If you truly feel that housing is a human right, the solution is building more housing and improving the current stock, not restricting the hardworking housing providers currently doing the work of housing San Diegans.
Thank you, sir. John Brady is our next speaker. John, you'll be followed by Mustafa Asami, Victor Cow, and Janine Ericat. Those three should be in the front row. Go ahead, sir.
John Brady with Lived Experience Advisors. We support this effort. At the same time, we also recognize that the dangers that this presents for the small landlord owner occupied. There are definitely some amazing landlords out there. I am a resident that works with a local landlord who has been in place for years and provides a reasonable rental rate. Unfortunately for me, he is having to sell his property just for personal and family planning reasons. So I'm at threat to lose my home in short order. At the same time, we also have to recognize the damage that's being done by institutional investors and real estate investment trusts in this market. The natural tendency of any of those trusts, and particularly those driven by Wall Street, is to maximize profitability. And we've seen that indicated by the use of rental rate maximization tools. And this is where the relationship becomes depersonalized. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mustafa Asami is our next speaker. Mustafa, you'll be followed by Victor Cow, followed by Janine Ericat, followed by Michelle Harrison McHouston. Those three should be in the front row. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Mustafa Azami. I'm a PANA member in District 9. I'm encouraged to learn that San Diego City Council recognized that keeping San Diegans housed is a priority. San Diegans needs a tenant protection ordinance that recognizes the unique challenges families with young children and elderly and disabled face. That's why I'm here today to ask the City Council to pass strong tenant protections. San Diego is my home. I want to remain here, but we need safe and affordable housing for thriving San Diego's families. Passing a strong tenant protection is also a key tool to preventing families and individuals from falling into homelessness. We need to look toward creating a future San Diego where families having access to safe and affordable housing is a reality because strong tenant protections are in place. We want a bright future for our family and our communities. I urge you to pass strong tenant protections as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Victor Cow, followed by Janine Ericat, followed by Michelle Harrison McHouston, followed by Nawal Mohammed. Those three should be in the front row. And Mr. Cow, thank you for the phonetic assistance on your name. You can have up to 1 minute.
Good afternoon, Council President and members of City Council. My name is Victor Cow with the California Apartment Association. We recognize your passion for an urgency around housing and homelessness issues in the city. These are societal issues that need to be broadly shared amongst the broader community, as well as invite multiple stakeholders at the table. Our concerns is that many of our members, 60% being more than 60% being small mom and pop landlords, have concerns regarding this proposal. At least some of the recommendations. These are tenant protections that are touted as some of the best recommendations across the state. But if you look at those other cities, they have no better handle over their housing crisis as well as homelessness. An omission in the staff report is that a stakeholder was considered everybody but a landlord. And so we'd hope that you'd be more inclusive and correct that. And we look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Janine Ericat, followed by Michelle Harrison McHouston, followed by Nawal Mohammed, followed by Brian Gruters.
Good afternoon, council members. Thank you, and thank you, D9, for the presentation of the framework. My name is Janine Ericat. I'm a resident of D1, and I'm speaking today in support of the TPO framework. I've been here all day, and I've heard over and over that the theme of today is housing is a human right. In order to practice this declaration that housing is a human right, we need protections for our communities and for residents all across the city of San Diego. I want to remind everyone in the audience and the council members that renters, landlords, tenants, this isn't a business. We're talking about a livelihood of our neighbors, our friends, and our families. And I'm sure today you'll hear stories in support from both renters and landlords and homeowners alike, many who are in the room today. We're behind. We're years behind the state protections that we currently have. Our city should be a model for the state, not one of the last to pass protections. So I think, like you'll hear from today's strong support, I urge you to please pass protections. And we need protections yesterday, not next week. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Michelle Harrison McHouston. Is Michelle Harrison McHouston present? If not, we'll go to Nawal Mohammed and then Brian Gruters. And then let me just let folks know that after Mr. Gruters, we'll be taking 3 speakers who need Arabic translation. So we'll be getting our native interpreter on the phone, and people, if you could just bear with us as we do that process. But now we'll go ahead. You can have up to 1 minute.
Good afternoon. My name is Nawal Mohammed and live in District 7 and work as a community organizer with Banan District 9. So I'm here speaking to you on behalf of the Arab refugee community, especially the Syrian community who fled war and left everything behind, their home, their dreams, their lives, and came to the United States looking for a new and safe place to live. I want a San Diego where all community members, including the Syrian community, are able to pursue their American dream of safe housing. But for many, it has become a nightmare. My community members have faced substandard condition, discrimination, and displacement because of eviction. Eviction often push my community members to move far away from their community where they belong to and want to stay in. I want stronger tenant protection for my community
Thank you,
and for
ma'am.
my children because as a mother of a child
you.
with a disability, I need stable housing so my child can feel secure and safe. This
you.
is why I urge the City Council to pass stronger tenant protection so our low income and newcomer feel
Thank
safe and
you.
have stability house. Thank you so
Your
much.
time has expired. Brian Gruters, if you could come forward. You have time seated by Tyler Renner. Is Tyler present? If you could raise your hand. Thank you, sir. Luis Montenegro, thank you. Zach Schlegel, thank you. And it looks like Tamron Kohler. Thank you. So you can have up to 5 minutes, sir. Go ahead.
Thanks. Good afternoon. My name is Brian Gruters. I'm the Associate Director of Outreach Services at PATH San Diego. I've worked in housing and homeless services for 13 years.
If you could speak into the mic, that would be grand.
How's that?
Perfect.
Really trying not to hunch here. My wife yelled at me last time. So 8 of those have been in San Diego. I've been working in housing and homeless services for a while. We're really honored to be here on behalf of PATH and with the support of our colleagues, time seated to speak on behalf of this issue. Before anything else, I want to say thank you also to council staff and especially council president for leading on this issue. So simply put, tenant protection is homeless prevention. In a city like ours, gripped by an affordable housing shortage, so many of us teeter on the edge of homelessness. We need a stronger legal safety net to stay housed. My teammates and I see it every day, talking to our neighbors living on our sidewalks, our parks, our alleyways, and in encampments across the city. People do not want or choose to be homeless. People want a safe place to call home, to sleep soundly, and to lay a foundation for a stable life. Every day, San Diegans face challenges obtaining and staying in their homes, which leads to stories like Tim and Janet's, an older couple my team and I met a few years ago. Tim and Janet, whose names we've changed for privacy, lived along the San Diego River. My team and I came across them a few days before Thanksgiving because a partner organization warned us that the river was likely to flood within a few days, putting them at risk. Like an unfortunate number of older Americans, Tim had serious health problems and relied on oxygen tanks to breathe steadily. Janet doted on Tim, spent every waking hour trying to meet his medical needs and keep them healthy. Janet was a hard worker, and Tim wanted to do whatever he could to stay healthy. As we all know, there are thousands of hard workers and strivers in San Diego. Tim and Janet didn't need much. Small studio, maybe a 1-bedroom near Tim's doctor with enough space for his medical equipment. But homes like that, just like housing in general, are in short supply in San Diego. And this may go without saying, but it's nearly impossible to find a home when you don't have access to the internet or running water. When we started talking to Tim and Janet, they were more than ready to come inside. All the shelters that could accommodate them were full, so PATH put them up in a motel while we worked to identify a more stable situation. We hoped we'd find a place for them in a few weeks. It took several months. Tim and Janet qualified for a housing subsidy, similar to Section 8. But even then, a stable subsidy doesn't automatically provide a roof over your head. Our housing navigators had to cast a wide net in order to find a place for them to stay. We fell all over ourselves to get landlords to understand that they could still be good tenants. The current rental market is stacked against tenants. Even when our teams managed to overcome landlord stigma of our clients, People who have experienced homelessness lack rental history. They typically have poor credit, which shouldn't matter when the government pays your rent through a subsidy, but landlords are free to reject their clients based on credit score anyway. And for San Diegans like myself, fortunate enough to have stable housing, tenant protections are rarely enforced. Fortunately, PATH and other providers are working with our friends at the Regional Task Force on Homelessness and 211 to target state funds toward preventing our most vulnerable residents from losing their homes. We know we can't reach everybody right now, but in our limited capacity, we've seen that giving someone a little financial help and personal support has made our clients 9 times less likely to fall into homelessness than if they were on their own. If fair eviction laws were in place, we'd have even more time to reach out to people before they lose their housing. Tightening rules around no-fault evictions, for example, would give tenants more warning and clarity about why they may be forced to leave, allowing prevention programs to solve the root problem in a way that works for both tenants and landlords. We finally found a place off of Craigslist willing to rent to Tim and Janet on a month-to-month basis. When I got the call that our team had moved them into their own new apartment, I had to sit down. When you see someone continue losing, hitting hurdle after hurdle, to see them finally win is an amazing experience. And it's one I hope will never get old. Homelessness is hard on the body and mind. It pains me to tell you that Tim has passed away several months ago. Janet is still in her apartment working hard to get by, but she's still living on the edge like so many San Diegans. It hurts to think about how much both of them have gone through. It also hurts to know that for every 10 people we get off the streets, 13 more fall into homelessness just like they did. It gives me hope, though, to do the work of ending homelessness every day alongside a great team, and gives me hope to stand before you today and share our perspective. We need more housing and more tenant protections. Both of those goals can be accomplished, and I know that the whole team at PATH is here to help. Thank you so much for your work and the chance to speak.
Thank you. And we have some technical difficulties with our Arabic translator, so I'm going to take another group, Asma Abdi, first. But hang tight if you just stay there in the front row. We're working on resolving that. But if Asma would come forward, Asma Abdi. And Asma, you have time seated by Mohammed Mohammed. Is Mohammed Mohammed present? If you'd raise your hand, please. Thank you. Fatuma Saeed. Tawabek. Is Tawabek, thank you. And Cheryl Matney. Thank you. So you can have up to 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Asma Abdi, and I work as a policy associate at the Partnership for the Advancement of New Americans, PANA, and D9. I would first like to thank our City Council for hearing this item and taking an important step in addressing housing insecurity in San Diego. PANA is a local research, public policy, and community organizing hub dedicated to advancing the full economic, social, and civic inclusion of refugees in the San Diego region. According to the Legal Aid Society of San Diego, before the pandemic, from October 1st, 2018 through September 30th, 2019, 2,341 San Diego residents called to receive assistance related to evictions. A disproportionate number of calls came from neighborhoods that have a higher share of racial minorities, with almost half, 47%, coming from predominantly low-income and non-white communities. During the pandemic, from July 2021 through January 2022, Legal Aid Society of San Diego received nearly 1,400 requests for assistance for housing-related issues from households in the city of San Diego. About 23% of these households requested assistance with a no-fault eviction, comprising the largest percentage of housing-related issues that San Diego households are requesting assistance. As we can see, San Diego families, specifically our low-income families of color, have excessively faced housing horrors such as evictions long before the COVID-19 pandemic. Even during the pandemic, when we had strong temporary protections, San Diego families continued to face wrongful no-fault evictions. The city's council's goal should be to provide strong enough protections where our renter families in the city have a fair shot at asserting their rights. Studies show that when tenants are evicted, we are more likely to experience job loss, negative health outcomes, and for children, educational disruptions. According to the San Diego Regional Task Force on Homelessness's point-in-time count, between 2020 to 2022, the unsheltered population in the city of San Diego increased by 9%, with 2% of those unhoused being families and 7% of those unhoused being youth. Our unhoused population in the city of San Diego is increasing at an alarming rate, and that is why we need stronger tenant protections. In the event of eviction proceedings, our families need assistance relocating. San Diego families require a law that provides us meaningful relocation assistance of 6 months fair market rent for displaced persons if we are evicted due to a withdrawal of the unit from the market. 6 months is necessary. Let's say we are a family of 4 living in a 2-bedroom apartment in City Heights. Our fair market rent, according to the National Low Income Housing Coalition, is $1,730 per month. In order to move to a similar unit at the same price, we'll need a security deposit, first month's rent, and an application fee. Let's say we are newcomers with limited resources and need a furnished apartment. A landlord can charge up to 3 times the rent for a security deposit plus first month's rent for a total of $6,920 or 4 months' rent. According to the most recent City of San Diego housing element, a majority of households spend more than 30% of their income on housing. If the unit we are able to afford at a fair market rent is far from transit, our family will need to buy a car, drastically increasing the total cost of moving. This is just one hypothetical scenario that demonstrates why 6 months fair market rent is the minimum needed for our families to prevent us from becoming unhoused. Our families need meaningful short-term relocation payments at a minimum of $200 a day. According to the research from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, a family of 4 living in San Diego with 2 working parents and 2 children would need to make $96,733 after annual taxes per year to cover living expenses like food, childcare, medical, housing, and transportation. Per day, that totals $265. For this reason, $200 per day relocation payment must be included at the very least. The current San Diego regulations protect the rights of long-term, more than 2-year residential tenants by limiting grounds for their eviction and requiring landlords to provide a written notice of such grounds. So for those of us who are under a 2-year term, we are literally out of luck and can be evicted at any time for any reason without notice. And there are many other examples of the loopholes used to wrongfully evict families. Just as homeowners feel connected to their communities, long-term tenants participate in our communities as well. We enroll our children in local schools and work to improve the health and safety of our neighborhoods. This ordinance can be an effective tool to prevent displacement and stabilize communities, creating a society of community involvement and belonging. Housing stability will help all San Diegans by decreasing the horrors our families face and increasing our living standards. I urge our council to pass stronger tenant protections to build a future where all San Diego families can thrive. Thank you.
And we're still having some technical difficulties with our Arabic translator, so we'll go to Ramo Abdi. Is she present? Ramo Abdi, if you'd come forward. You have time seated by Mohammed M-U-H. Is Mohammed present? Yes, okay, so you can have up to 2 minutes. Ramo Abdi, go ahead and step up to the mic.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Rahma Abdi. I'm a proud resident of District 9, a member of PANA. My family was settled in San Diego in 1995. At the time, City Heights was known as San Diego, also welcoming a large number of refugees from Somalia, Ethiopia, Cambodia, and Laos. Passing strong tenant protection is important to me because I grew up in this beautiful neighborhood as a young woman and started my family. I have invested 27 years in this neighborhood that I love, and I want my family to remain the same. I had to stay with my family of 8 in small hotel rooms, providing meals for my children and also transportation to school. $200 a day is a minimum amount that will not cover all the costs, expenses. We need a meaningful relocation payment for more than $200 a day for short-term displacement and at least 6-month fair market rent for no-fault evictions. As you all know, evictions separate families from the community and the support system they have come to rely on for survival. Without this protection, families and their children are forced moves to far away from their job, school, and support system. I urge the City Council to pass a strong tenant protection as soon as possible because I want to live in San Diego where my children and I can grow up, the same neighborhood I grew up in. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll go to Ramla Sahid. Is Ramla Sahid present? Ramla, if you could come forward. You have time seated by Saman Ayash. Is Saman Ayash present? Ramla, is Saman Ayash present? Oh, sorry, thank you. Ibrahim Mohammed? Uh, Faisal Awad? So we have three so far. Maher Abbasi?
Oh, he's outside. Restroom.
Okay, so you can have up to 4 minutes.
Okay, I may not need all that time, but I appreciate it. Thank you so
Sure
much.
thing.
Good afternoon. My name is Ramla Saheed. It's good to be here. I'm the Executive Director of PANA, the Partnership for the Advancement of New Americans. I really appreciate this conversation because we've been talking a lot about how we've had this housing crisis, but we haven't taken many steps to make meaningful action towards solving it. We've done study after study, we've done hearing after hearing, and this is an opportunity that actually helps us accomplish something in terms of making sure more families don't fall into homelessness. So I really appreciate that conversation. The one reminder I want to give us is, if you ask the industry what they need, they say the free market will solve it. And we all know trickle down housing economics just doesn't work, in addition to, everything that we heard in the staff report around how just racialized housing is, how policies have enabled some to really take advantage and get ahead, while others have, been falling further and further behind. And so, in order to rectify that racist history, we need meaningful action. And meaningful action isn't going to come from the industry. It's going to come from smart policymaking, considering the facts. So that's what we asked of you today, is to consider the facts. To share some, pulling in exact cost on local evictions is challenging. Our city just does not do a good job of collecting rental data, eviction data, the data that we need to actually make sound policy decisions. That's one. Myriad of direct and indirect costs can be traced to eviction, including some for which data is incomplete and unavailable, as I've mentioned. Estimates of the average cost of sheltering one person a day at the city's bridge shelters generally exceeds the initial projected cost of $17. This data is, by the way, 2008 data, so these costs may have increased. One such estimate by a national news source was 36 per person per day. Using these numbers, the annual cost for homelessness interventions for all persons entering homelessness as a result of a housing crisis would be $461,100 and $982,800 per year. It is important to note that these costs are associated only with the increased usage of homeless shelters by individuals. They do not reflect the full costs associated with providing shelter to female-headed households with children. The cost of housing instability, as well as the associated negative physical and mental outcomes, also undoubtedly manifest in areas like education, unemployment, social connections, and transportation. Simply put, local housing policies needlessly result in housing insecurity, which increase costs and stressors for a significant percentage of households, but also for our city taxpayer dollars, because we end up footing the bill for that. This is why we need our city council to pass strong and enforceable tenant protections. We need an ordinance that has teeth, that actually helps people make the right decisions, because it is in their best interest not to violate the law or not to do wrong by tenants who are doing everything right and deserve to stay in their homes. Otherwise, we risk recreating the current loopholes and lack of accountability that exist in the current and outdated right to know ordinance. And in the last few seconds, I'll just mention the only people we ever penalize and who have a cost for doing what we deem society as the bad thing are those that are poor. But landlords get away with doing so much wrong to families who don't deserve it. So let's hold them accountable and let's do the right thing today.
Thank you. We now have 3 Arabic speakers. We have Janine, who's going to be acting as the interpreter. So we have Ali Ebda, followed by Walid Mohammed, followed by Eric Abraham. And Janine, I'm going to put, do you want me to put 2 minutes on the clock? You get two totals, so, or do you want 1 minute for the speaker and 1 minute for you?
We'll do 1 minute for the speaker and then I'll.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, sir.
اوكي السلام عليكم. انا اسمي علي عابدة، لاجئ سوري، وعم عاني كثير من اجار البيت يعني بشكل عام كل الجالية العربية اللي هون عم تعاني. يعني مثل هلا انا بدي استاجر بيت 4500 و3500 وما فوق. يعني انا وزوجتي عم بشتغل حتى نحسن نكمل ايجار البيت، ومثلي متايل كثير وما فينا يعني على الايجار الغالي كثير، وعندي 4 اطفال. يعني بدي اشتغل ولا بدي طعمي اطفالي ولا بدي ادفع ايجار البيت. وشكرا لكم.
I'm just writing it down so I can capture his last thought. Okay. He said, peace be upon you. My name is Ali and I'm a Syrian refugee. I'm struggling a lot to pay rent and the whole Arab community is struggling. To rent a home, it's about 4,500 without the cost of utilities. Me and my wife are both working very hard to make rent, and there are many like me in the community. And we're having a hard time being able to make our rent every month. The rent is expensive, and we have 4 kids. And so every month I'm thinking, do I feed my kids or do I pay rent? And he wants to thank you all for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. And we'll go to our next speaker, Waleed Mohammed. And again, Janine, if you would ask him if he'd prefer 1 minute on the clock for him, 1 minute to interpret, followed by Eric Abraham.
Hi, my name is Waleed Mohammed. I'm from Syria. I live in District 7. I want to speak in Arabic and she will translate. نحن الآن هنا، ولكن يوجد إحدى العائلات الآن يتم طردها من بيتها وهي من مجتمعنا، ونحن نريد أن تعيش هذه العائلات بكرامة في سان دييغو. لذلك نرجو أن يتم تمرير القوانين بأقصى سرعة لحماية المستأجرين، وهذا من الضروري جدا لحماية عائلاتنا وأن يعيشوا بكرامة، وخاصة أن اليوم نحن نرى ارتفاع الأسعار بشكل كبير جدا، وهناك عائلات كثيرة لا تستطيع أن تؤمن هذا الدخل للأجار للسكن وللحياة اليومية المتزايدة. شكرا.
Thank you. You all heard his introduction. This was Waleed, a longtime resident in San Diego. He's speaking on behalf of the Syrian community and said, We are longtime residents here, and our families are facing evictions throughout his community. He said, "We want our families to live in dignity in San Diego, and we're asking for tenant protections to be passed quickly in San Diego. As the rent increases, it's becoming harder for people to afford rent and to afford a livelihood. And so again, and he wants to stress the importance of how important tenant protections to be passed, and thanks everyone for their time.
Thank you. And our final Arabic speaker is Arak Abraham. And again, Janine, if you would ask
Hi,
him.
good afternoon. شيء عظيم إنك تعيش في دولة عظيمة اليوم ولا تشعر في الأمان. في نهاية كل شهر يجب عليك أن تدفع $3000، فهذا يعني راتب كامل. تقبض الراتب وتدفعه كامل لإجرة البيت. نرجو منكم سن القوانين التي تحمينا وتجعلنا نشعر بالأمان تحت العلم الأمريكي، حفاظاً على أطفالنا وحفاظاً على الجيل القادم. مصيبة كبرى أن نرى عائلات كثيرة أصبحت في الشارع اليوم. شكراً، نرجو الدعم والحماية.
For those who don't know Arabic, he said that very poetically and beautifully. So I apologize for any not being able to capture that essence.
أن نرى عائلات كثيرة أصبحت في الشارع اليوم. شكراً، نرجو الدعم والحماية.
For those who don't know Arabic, he said that very poetically and beautifully. So I apologize for any not being able to capture that essence. So he was saying that it's great to live in a wonderful country and to live in a beautiful country, and it's important that we feel safe in a country like the United States. And he expressed the challenges of trying to make rent of a $3,500, and again the importance of to pass the tenant protections and to have a life of protection in America and to protect all San Diegans, and the need to want to protect the future of our children and our community. And the importance of passing tenants protections today, so people can live in dignity and safety. country like the United States. And he expressed the challenges of trying to make rent of a 3,500. And again, the importance of urging to pass the tenant protections and to have a life of protection in America and to protect all San Diegans, and the need to want to protect the future of our children and our community, and the importance of passing tenants protections today, so people can live in dignity and safety and without fear of being evicted. So thank you all.
Thank you, and thank you, Janine, for your interpretation. We'll turn now back to folks here in chambers. Humaira Yusufi. Humaira, if you could come forward. Humaira Yusufi, followed by Cristobal Navarrete, followed by Chris Robinson, followed by Eugene Marihi. So you.
Thank you, council members and council president, for bringing this important framework today. My name is Humaira Yusufi, and I'm with PANA. I'm also, I manage a property for my parents in Mira Mesa. And so this issue, I see it from both sides. And I understand from this experience that housing is not just a roof over your head. It's a place for safety, for belonging. It's where your kids grow up, to have a sense of belonging and to really thrive in their upbringing. And it's so and so important for us to recognize this when we talk about tenants protections, because at PANA every single day we see individuals coming to our offices seeking help because they're being evicted, many times wrongfully evicted, and we try to help them, but we recognize that so many times what we can provide provide is not enough. We need you all to act. We need you all to act to pass stronger tenants protections
Thank
for
you.
all of San Diego. Thank you.
Cristobal. Ferretti, followed by Chris Robinson, followed by Eugene Marihi, followed by Lisa Mason, followed by Rhoda Coit. Those folks should be in the front row. Go ahead, sir. You can have up to 1 minute.